Tony Dunn. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
It may be a couple of minutes after 9, but it's Tuesday night, and the C3 Panthers Podcast is here to chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. It's the longest running Panthers podcast, and we've got a great show for you tonight. We're going to be talking about rookie expectations and really, arguably, expectations all around for players on this team. We might even begin with a little Brian Burns expectation about how big that bag he's going to pull from the Carolina Panthers is looking like. Then we're going to talk about Bryce Young and could he potentially be offensive rookie of the year? Yes, he could be that. What numbers would get him there? What do you guys expect out of him? And we've got a guest coming on. We've got Tyler Moore from KingFantasySports.com to come on and talk about Jonathan Mingo, right? We're going bananas for Jonathan Mingo. We want to know not only about his fantasy value, but how he stacks up in this rookie class of offensive or of wideouts. And what are the expectations for a guy like Mingo in the NFL? Tyler Moore from KingFantasySports.com will help us break that up, chop that up at 9:20. But until then, I'm hanging out with my wheelman, my boy, Cody Lashney. Welcome back. It's Tuesday night. It's time to talk some Carolina Panthers.
Tony Dunn, happy to be back here with you, brother. Listen, you already know there's nowhere I'd rather be on a Tuesday night than sitting here with my boys, chopping it up, talking about Panther football. We're going to talk about this rumored Brian Burns contract and the type of dollar amount that he wants. We're going to do a deep dive with our guests about Jonathan Mingo. We're going to talk about a very special guest team coming to join the Panthers at Wofford College this year. So much to discuss. And, you know, it's the dead time of the season. So we're going to fill this time with a bunch of conjecture on what these rookies might be able to do for the Carolina Panthers this season. But as always, you know we're going to do it with the best damn Panther fans in all of YouTube. 9 Lives Kill. What up, Keeb? My guy, Drew. Black Cat Panther Podcast. What's up, guys? Joey the Blind Panther Esquivel. My man, C3D's Ill Skills. Rockhead 81. Hank 3 Rebel. Supreme Lita. Z and Tyler Jones. Tony Dunn. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
The number is 252-228-5098. That's 252-228-5098. Go ahead and get your calls in. We want to know what you guys think about Carolina Panthers, the rookie, the expectations for guys like Bryce Young, for Jonathan Mingo. But also, one of the things we'll be talking about is how good is this wide receiver core, or is it good at all? Is it average, above average, below average? How do you measure those things? We want to know your thoughts on the Carolina Panthers, the expectations for players, or your expectations for this podcast and the team, or whatever you want to talk about. The number is 252-228-5098. Greg, the Bat Daddy, the Stat Daddy, the man of many talents, the man of many frustrations. But with frustration comes the feeling of accomplishment when you print that little hammer.
Tony Dunn, I bought a 3D printer last week, and I have been working on it like day and night, all week long for the last weeks. And I'm going to go ahead and tell anybody who wants to get in this game. It's not just like a buy and plug in and play type thing. There's a lot of learning involved. But I finally, after 1 week, have my first 100% successful print. And I'm going to show it to you. And here it is. Here it is. So I play a game called Minecraft Hammer. That's right. And there's Thor as one of the characters, and this is going to be one of his little positive status effects right here. So I'm gonna hold
I have to ask, was that a paid design or did you design that yourself?
No, I actually, if you go to Thingiverse, They have a lot of designs for free. So I downloaded one off there. Some of them are pretty good. Some of them don't work that well. It really depends on what your printer is, software you're using, and just how well you set it up. But it's tough. I haven't tried to design one yet. The first thing I'm going to try to design is a C3 Panthers Fantasy Football Championship trophy.
Ooh.
So that is in the works. But as you see, 1 week, and here's the progress. But it's progress.
Well, when you match that up to what you did before, then the next thing you do should be astronomical.
I hope so. Yeah, I've
It's
learned
like
a lot of lessons.
Me is Photoshop was that kind of white whale for me for a while, and then Photoshop became easy. You go and try this program, GIMP, I think it's called.
I've mastered GIMP finally.
But then you can make T-shirts for us. Then
I will. Yeah,
make T-shirts. That's the program you got to use. It's just a different mind game. Anyway,
it's fucked.
Look, this is the off season, and hey, we've got hammers. We've got we're here. So is the expectations realistic for Greg's 3D print, or did he overachieve or underachieve? The number's 252-228-5098. Smash the thumbs up button. Check out the voice that makes a moist. CK, welcome back to the podcast.
Yeah, better late than never. I was a buzzer beater getting into the show tonight. I got held up by a rain delay while we were golfing tonight.
Good Lord.
Yeah, so
poor CK. I was sitting here going, "Oh man, baby, his mom." Then it could be all kinds of different things.
Golf. No, I was golfing. Yeah, golfing. I'm a country club guy now. I'm a member of a country club, so I'm gonna be golfing a hell of a lot. You know,
so you're one of those wine and cheese Panther fans, aren't you?
Yeah, honestly, I was debating whether I wanted to do this show with you peasants. So
I don't blame you.
It's all good now. People like Greg and I can go hang out with CK at the club.
There you go.
And since CK doesn't drink, we could hit his drink minimum that he probably has to have. A lot of these places have a drink minimum.
Yeah, I work for a country club. You have a minimum you have to pay, right?
Yeah, and guess what? CK's buying. CK is buying. That's right. Go ahead and get your calls in, man. Our guest will be here in about 10 minutes. Let's go ahead and jump in. Let's just start with Brian Burns, and then we'll move on to Bryce Young. Brian Burns reportedly, well, actually not reportedly, we all know this, is Brian Burns is looking for a contract extension. No new news there. The Carolina Panthers have really made him a big part of this defensive plan. Brian Burns has really been an important part of this team for quite some time now. They really pivoted to him being an early face of the franchise. And honestly, I was a little surprised when they put so much of that emphasis of him and the spider pose and busting out the black on black uniforms and just kind of making him the face of the franchise in spite of the difficulties facing this team at the moment and over the past few years. Are honestly surprised they didn't get this done a little earlier, and really, frankly, disappointed because for every day you wait, the price goes up. The Carolina Panthers, though, have been reportedly in negotiations with Brian Burns in talks, and they want to make this happen. Some people are saying that this deal would look or surpass $110 million. Excuse me. Bradley Chubb signed after he was traded to Miami. And many people say that's like kind of lowball there, that we're talking Myles Garrett, $25 million a year money. So at the end, at any rate, Brian Burns is going to get paid by the Carolina Panthers. And I honestly don't think they have a choice, Cody.
Oh, they definitely don't have a choice. Brian Burns and his agency group have all the leverage they want. And I don't know what world Panther fans were thinking that we lived in where we were going to get some kind of good deal for Brian Burns. Like, listen, the Panthers have no pass rush help outside of Brian Burns. He is literally our only established pass rusher. And you're not going to pay him the money that he wants. More importantly, look how important he is going to our season this year. If Brian Burns at any point decides, nah, I'm going to need that bag right now, and I want Myles Garrett.
If he sat out.
But that's what I'm saying. The Panthers now have no choice but to pay Brian Burns the type of money that he wants because we have zero other options. we haven't even brought in any other help besides, at the other defensive end or outside linebacker position yet. No Jadeveon Clowney, no Yannick Ngakoue, no Leonard Floyd. It's so hard to build a good defensive line with competent pass rushers. And it's too late in the ballgame for the Panthers to go and sign another one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brian Burns is going to be a top 3 paid defensive end in the NFL, and it's time we swallow that pill now.
It frankly reminds me a little bit, Greg, of big money Charles Johnson signing that giant contract. And while Charles Johnson was a very good player and played for a long time for the Carolina Panthers and earned every dollar of the big money contract, he was able to secure that big bag there at the time because Julius Peppers said, man, I don't want to be here no more. Mm-hmm. And the Carolina Panthers found themselves with one guy who was that they could kind of count on. And now Brian Burns, like Cody said, has the leverage here.
Yeah. Well, I agree. Brian Burns has all the leverage. And while I've had my comments about Brian Burns, like he was the king of almost type deals, what I called him for a long time. 12 and a half sacks last year. Pretty good on a team that wasn't bad. And you actually brought up Bradley Chubb, and just comparing those two, Bradley Chubb in 57 games has 28 sacks, and Brian Burns in 64 has 38 sacks. So
Chubb has had a lot of
7
injury
more games,
issues.
10 more sacks.
Yeah, Chubb has had injury issues. Brian Burns has not, right? So Brian Burns has always dealt with injuries. He's always had some sort of minor stuff, but has been found a way to be available.
Yeah,
for the Carolina Panthers. So I think the only reason Bradley Chubb's name just garners a little bit more national attention because of the draft hype around him when he came out. Brian Burns is every bit more of an accomplished and better player and deserving of that money. CK, my argument here is that this is why you try to, if you know that these guys are part of your future plans, mm-hmm. that you try to get these things done. If we would have done this last year, right? I mean, really, what would this have changed? The only thing would have changed is that you would have gotten ahead of some of the natural inflation of these things.
Well, the only problem with that thought is we had a different person potentially running the show in the background.
Yeah.
Brian Burns wasn't a Matt Rule drafted player.
True.
And after we let Hassan Reddick go, we left him on an island to try to run this defensive line as the only pass rusher in the entire team. And even with him being that much of a focus, the dude still pulled out 12 sacks. I don't know that there's many other teams out there or many other players out there that would be able to garner every ounce of attention from an offensive line, all the double teams, all the little chips from the running backs and tight ends coming off of the line, and still come away with double-digit sacks in the year. I don't think that he would have had any benefit. I don't think he would have had any luck, or we wouldn't have had any luck getting a cheaper contract, because he knew he was the only one on the team in the middle of the season or in the offseason last year.
Yeah, Burns is the guy. I mean, I would argue he's the biggest star on the team, period.
He is.
Except for until the new star, the new shining star shows up here, Bryce Young. Let's go ahead and start talking. Let's look at some of these. The thoughts of this is, what are the realistic expectations for Bryce Young coming in? And some people have put up some stats. This one was, I think, from Pro Football Focus. They put a number up like this. At least that was
Panthers on tap.
Yeah, the Panthers on tap. But I looked down, like, if you bury in the comments, because some people are like, look at that, whatever. Hall of Fame rookie season with 4,500 yards. And they were like, where did you come up with this stuff? And people were like, hey, well, I think he said it was Pro Football Focus. I don't know. Who cares? What were the numbers again?
So, I mean, again, this is just from whoever put this Panthers on tap, I believe. But they put, just as like a benchmark for rookie numbers, 27 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 4,547 passing yards. Now, it wouldn't be the most touchdowns ever thrown by a rookie, but it would be the most passing yards ever thrown for.
By a lot.
So
200 yards.
Andrew Luck in 2012 had 4,374. So, I mean, we're really starting to ask ourselves now, knowing how the offense is set up, what do we predict Bryce Young's production is going to be for this 2023 season? And I'll just start off by saying this. I don't think this is outside of the realm of possibility, Tony.
No, I mean, I think it could be 4,000 passing yards is like a more reason. I wouldn't bet on it.
Well, to me, it's because of the type of offense that we're built to run. The fact that we have so many different guys that we're going to be able to spread the ball around to. I mean, really, I feel like we're kind of underestimating how many different guys we're going to be able to distribute the ball to. I mean, DJ Chark, Adam Thielen, Terrace Marshall Jr. You add Jonathan Mingo to this bunch. You have Laviska Shenault. There are a ton of people that Bryce Young should be able to get the ball to. And at his final year at Alabama, that's what Bryce Young had to do. He had to get the ball around to a number of different targets. So it raises this question of what is possible for Bryce Young this year. And it even begs to kind of connect to that, knowing that we're going to be spreading the ball around. What kind of production do we also expect out of Jonathan Mingo? Because I'm a firm believer that Jonathan Mingo has number one wide receiver potential, and that he is now in a situation to best use his better attributes, and we can put him in a position to succeed fairly quickly. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, interesting questions, and I'm interested to know what you guys think.
Well, we want to get the callers in here later on in the show. We'll be taking the cat calls. The number's 252-228-5098. Your thoughts on Bryce Young's rookie production? I think that just to kind of finish up this, we'll give the mic real quick to Greg and CK. 27 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Does not seem outside the realm of possibility for me. The 2-to-1 ratio is kind of what I think would be a great ratio for a rookie quarterback. As long as it isn't like 6 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, the 2-to-1 ratio kind of pans out. 20-10, 25-13, or 12. You get above 3,800 yards passing and you throw in 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. That's rookie of the year material for me from the number 1 pick overall, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. I think when you look at these numbers, you've got to separate. Is this what you hope for or what you expect? Because to be truly honest with you, I can't say that anybody who tells me they expect this, I can't put anything behind that because you have nothing to base that off of. This is what you hope for. That's good. But I will say that if he throws for 4,547 passing yards, then that means Jonathan Mingo is going to have a good season.
No kidding. Actually,
the blanket is already wet tonight, folks.
Yeah, I know.
It's
always so sad. It's always so sad. CK, we're going to go ahead and bring in our guest, and you guys can talk about Bryce Young because guess what, CK? Our guest is an Alabama alumni. I would say Roll Tide. Maybe we have to say Roll Tide at this point if our number 1 pick is a Carolina Panther. I'm an ECU grad, so we have nothing to do with the SEC, but my wife's entire family are Bulldog fans. So go Dogs, I guess you would say. But Bryce Young, former Alabama star Heisman winner. Welcome in Tyler Moore from KingFantasySports.com. Welcome to the C3 Panthers podcast.
Hey guys, appreciate you guys having me on, and Roll Tide to you all. We will welcome you with open arms over here.
Nice. So we brought you on because, first, you write for KingFantasySports.com, and you've been doing a series of, I guess, posts. They're real popular right now. They get a ton of traction, and these thread breakdowns, which you find, I guess, the new wave of the internet is people would rather just read the actual article on Twitter than one click and reading one entire article. But I ran across your thread on Jonathan Mingo. Panther fans excited about the number 2 pick overall. And you had some interesting, I thought you had a lot of good commentary. in a very digestible way here. Your thoughts on Jonathan Mingo?
Yeah, I honestly was pleasantly surprised by Jonathan Mingo. He was like a name that, I come from a lot of the fantasy background and the fantasy community more so than like the NFL fan Twitter. I feel like those are two very similar spheres of Twitter that don't always get along very well sometimes.
Right.
But I was kind of hesitant on Mingo. He was a guy that I had my eye on like in the pre-draft process. He was kind of getting some buzz and stuff like that. But I was hesitant on whether he would really get the draft capital or not. Finally dug into him, as you saw my posts and stuff, and I really liked him. I came away very impressed. A lot of I was kind of hesitant because his college profile production-wise wasn't great. He never really played a full season until this past year. Looking at it now, he never went over like 400 yards until this past year. But breaking down his tape, he has a lot of potential and he has a lot of traits that I feel like a lot of very good receivers have. He runs pretty good routes. I wouldn't say he's like a route technician or anything, but I think he's good enough and I think he has room to grow there. But he has really good ball skills. His yards after the catch is pretty good. He's all around a good player. There's not really any holes that you can really pick in his game. And I feel similarly, and I think a lot of people have comped him to someone pretty often, is Amon-Ra St. Brown from a couple years ago. Just like another big slot type player who had the versatility to play inside, outside. I don't necessarily think he's the prospect Amon-Ra St. Brown is, but I think that same kind of upside is there.
My guy that I like to compare him to is A.J. Brown, another Ole Miss receiver. Kind of a guy that can do everything. Not the fastest guy, maybe not the most explosive, but strong, can do everything, right? Fast enough.
Yeah.
When you said this, and I'm going to turn the mic over to the fellows so I don't hog it, but when people say not the best route runner or a technician, to me, I feel like you already mentioned that there's room for growth, and that generally we court these players when they're so young. I guess for me, the question is there a route he can't run, is in that he isn't explosive, and I think to me, that's the more like you can teach and refine the nuances of route running, but does he have the ability to run a diverse set of routes? Did you see that when you were looking at Jonathan Mingo?
Yeah, I think so. And it was a weird system. Not a weird system that they run. They run a really good system there at Ole Miss that scheme people pretty open, pretty consistently. But I feel like the scheme didn't necessarily fit Mingo's style of play, the way that a lot of other receivers do in that Ole Miss system. So he ran a lot of deep routes, and that's not necessarily his game. He does really good at like the short to intermediate routes. I think he is a decent deep threat, but I don't think he's, the amount that they use him that way at Ole Miss, I didn't think really fit his skill set as well. And that's probably why you didn't see like a big boom in his production. But honestly, there's no route in the route tree that I don't think he can run at least at an adequate level at this point.
So Tyler, thanks for your time today, man. I wanted to you put out this fantastic thread on Twitter, and that's really how you got our attention in the first place. And I wanted to share this. You put out a couple of videos that were kind of showing basically what he does at a high level. And I wanted to kind of bring this up, and it's the one about contested catches. And to me, this is what I think that contested catches and yards after the catch is going to be his real asset with the Carolina Panthers this year. I don't think they're asking Jonathan to be able to step in and be the number one receiver right away. We have Terrace Marshall Jr. We have DJ Chark that we brought in. So we're going to ease him in. But his ability to make these contested catches across the middle, which as an Alabama fan, that's something that Bryce Young did very well. And that yards after catch ability, to me, that has success written all over him for the Panthers this year. How do you think Jonathan Mingo fits in to Frank Reich's game plan and what they might want to do with Jonathan this year and how they intend to get the most out of him in their offense?
Yeah, so I mean, the contested catch is great. I think Jonathan Mingo. He's a good prospect, and I think he's very well deserving of the round 2 draft capital that he got. I think he probably should have been after a couple other receivers that went off the board, but what set him really apart is that he's a big receiver in this draft class of a lot of smaller slot guys.
Yeah, like
right?
Zay
Like
Flowers and
Zay
people like
Flowers,
that.
Jordan Addison, Joshua Downs, who I really like, but again, 5'8", 5'9", like small slot receiver. So I think that's what really set him apart there. And that's what the contested catch is there too. But he's a big slot guy, and I kind of made fun of the Carolina Panthers a little bit after the draft. I'm like, okay, so who's the big slot that's Bryce Young's favorite target, right? You got Terrace Marshall, who didn't play a lot of slot last year, but is in his early career has played a lot of slot and at the college level. Laviska Shenault is another big slot type of player. Like they all have the same. Adam Thielen is another big slot. So who's
everybody's in the slot
here? Right. So who's playing outside? Who's on the slot? Like Mingo has the ability. I think all of them have the ability to play on the slot, but I don't think any of them, on the outside, but I think all of them have their best role in the slot. And maybe that's something that Frank Reich unlocks in one of these players is a outside role that we didn't see there.
A follow up to that. If you're projecting him to be the slot, do you think that he has the skill set to be that dominant X wide receiver? And if not, what traits do you not see from him, at least on film, that you would want to see in order to have basically more comfortability of him being that go-to guy for a team?
Yeah, and so I think he could still be the go-to guy from the big slot position. Again, we saw that from like Amon-Ra St. Brown this past year. He's a 100-target guy and was the dude there in Detroit as the slot. And I think Mingo has that in his range of outcomes. I think that's very far on the higher end of that. But to be that outside alpha receiver, he's got the size, but I think he's really got to hone in as a route runner to become that. Like his release is good. It's not great. He has the release package, but occasionally he gets really choppy feet and, can let a guy get his hands on him and doesn't have that smooth release. He doesn't have the separation that I would love to see, but his contested catch ability kind of makes up for that. And in tandem with that, a lot of rookie quarterbacks like to see that separation before they throw the ball. They don't throw with the anticipation that other people do. I love Bryce as much as the next guy, but I mean, that's just a theme you see with a lot of rookie running or quarterbacks. So hopefully, I think Bryce Young in his head and cerebrally
don't worry, Greg can't say it either.
Yeah, he has that in his, he has that ability, but we'll see if he's able to do that as a rookie, Yeah.
Greg, you want to give it a shot?
Cerebrally.
All right, man, that was pretty good. Actually.
Hey. I can type it in my threads just fine.
Cerebrally.
All right. Is there, when you think about Jonathan Mingo, is there anything he can do that other guys in this class can't? Because you mentioned the big body. There's only two of them, right? It's the TCU kid, the Quentin Johnson, and him are the only guys that have any size here. I'm honestly surprised that so many of the draft profilers were so high on some of all the small guys. I feel like it's like I understand that they have a lot of. First, no, there ain't no Waddle in this class to me. And at the same time, I feel like basically a lot of those smaller receivers, they just get stuck in the realm of every Giants receiver for the last 7 years. And you can just sub whatever name they are. I don't even know their names anymore. They're just all 5'11" and pretty good at everything. Is there something that the Panthers may see that he can grow into?
Yeah, I mean, again, the size, he has the versatility to play inside, outside. I think that's big, whereas you see, again, the smaller receivers, Of those smaller receivers, Jordan Addison is quote unquote the biggest. He's 5'11", but 173. He played outside in college, but I don't see success in his range of outcomes at the NFL on the outside consistently. But the NFL is kind of gravitating towards these smaller receivers. I remember when Devontae Smith was drafted, he was, everyone was like, oh, BMI, he's too small, he won't succeed, right? He's too
he did get lit the hell up in the NFC Championship game, and you were like looking at him and you're like, oh shit. And he got up and you're like,
yeah,
he's kind of special though.
He's special. Yeah. I mean, he's an outlier for sure, but we've seen it before. I think if I remember right, Garrett Wilson was kind of smaller. He wasn't as small, but he was, in that 5'11", like 180 range where, 5 years ago, that's, off your draft board. You're not looking for those kind of guys. So I think we're gravitating towards these smaller players and having a real role for them, but there's still a role for the big guys too, right? You still got to have them on your team. It's
still a big boy league, bro.
Exactly. So I think that's what pushed Mingo up. I think that's what pushed like a guy like Cedric Tillman, another one of those bigger wide receivers up where, he's old. And people will in the draft era, you're not looking for those older prospects, but he's one of the only alpha size wide receivers. So that pushes him up into day 2.
Well, I mean, I want to ask you, by the way, my name is CK. Obviously, coming from Alabama, and you probably having a very close and keen eye on Bryce Young, we can't help but have it all come back to the man who was the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. Now, Bryce Young this year very possibly might be coming into, and it sounds like a fan take, like a fan of the Panthers take, but when you think about first overall draft picks in the NFL, Bryce Young might be coming into the best possible situation of any first round draft pick in the past decade, or first overall draft pick in the last decade, mainly because we traded up and we weren't as bad, and we've improved in pretty much every possible area. So we've in the chat, they've been going on. I mean, what is your belief in what Bryce Young is going to do in his rookie season, or what is your prediction at this point in time?
Yeah. Hey, you guys might have a Panthers fan in me. We got the number 1 overall pick over there. So I might come over to your side. I'm a much bigger college football fan than NFL. I am a fantasy football fan. So I know the NFL very much, but in terms of allegiance, I don't have a big one. So I kind of follow my college players around.
Do you expect Bryce Young? Do you think one of the things we were interested about Bryce, and the reason we believe that they drafted him, was for his cerebralness, right? And but the idea is the student of the game, the guy that, and I don't want to use the term win now, but is ready to step into that type of role. For me, Bryce Young is a player that also doesn't do anything phenomenal. But what he does do phenomenal is play football. And that is like understanding. And this is what we've been pitched. Is that he's got the brainiac gene that Luke Kuechly had on defense for us. And that when we just get him and let him get out there, that he's going to be like a Peyton Manning on the field. He's going to be like Tom Brady, where they can just throw to a spot and they've already beat you before things happen. Do you really believe that he is that type of transcendent, cerebral player? And is that intangible enough to outweigh the small stature that he has?
Yes, I will say yes to all those. I love Bryce Young. Obviously, that's a little homerism in me, but at the same time, I think he does have that. I've done my breakdown on Bryce Young as well, and you can see that on my Twitter. But I think he is the best quarterback in this draft. You'll see on my thread that I ranked Anthony Richardson ahead of him. That's for fantasy. All right, for fantasy, I would rather have him, but for real life NFL, I'm taking Bryce Young every time. I think he has that in him. I think he could be on the higher end of his range of outcomes. I think he has that Tom Brady, Peyton Manning in him, where he can just, know what the defense is before he, snaps the ball. You saw that at Alabama. I think without Bryce Young this past year, if we had any other quarterback, outside of Caleb Williams and, CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, I think we, are a 7-win team, right? He put that team on his back. I'm sorry if there's any Patriots fans for some reason listening to this podcast. I'm sorry they got Bill O'Brien. We have been calling for his head for the past 2 years.
And Mac Jones.
Yeah. So we were done with Bill O'Brien. We had to get him out of there. We couldn't, his game plan was, hey, Bryce Young, Jahmyr Gibbs, bail me out every freaking time. It was insane. He just was not scheming people open whatsoever. You saw Bryce Young had full control of that offense early and often this year. From the get-go this past season, he was calling audibles. He was calling out defenses. He was making reads. You don't see that from the college quarterback these days. He's already got a head start. I wouldn't say – temper expectations, right? He's still going to be a rookie. The game's faster in the NFL than it is in college. So definitely temper expectations. He's not going to be that right out of the gates, but he's got that in him. I'm kind of compare him and both CJ Stroud to, I think they could have very similar seasons to what Trevor Lawrence had his rookie year, which was not great, but we saw Trevor Lawrence last year and he made a huge improvement when they added weapons around him. Looking at what Jacksonville had his rookie season, I think it's very similar to what Carolina has this year. They, I think, have a little bit better weapons, but it's pretty similar. You had Marvin Jones, a vet wide receiver. You have that in Adam Thielen. You have Laviska Shenault, who is Laviska Shenault. Yeah. And then you have Terrace Marshall, who's an unknown.
We have DJ Shark.
Yeah,
which
DJ
I don't
Shark.
know. I think he played with Trevor Lawrence his rookie year.
He actually did, yeah. I have that pulled up. I think he was injured most of that season, though. He only played I'm looking at the Jacksonville stats. He only played 4 games. But, I think it's very similar. A very similar offense, around him. So I wouldn't expect him to be that guy year one. But give it next year, and Carolina brings in a stud like maybe a Calvin Ridley type, or even a Christian Kirk type, and you can see that kind of jump from year 1 to year 2. I fully expect that'll happen.
Okay. That actually kind of leads into the question I had. Actually, I had a couple questions, but a few of them got asked already. So I'll jump right into what we're talking about here with Bryce Young, because I do have a lot of questions about Bryce Young, and being more firsthand watching the games, you have more experience with him. And I've got to ask, Mac Jones, Tua, Jalen Hurts, like when you talk about Bryce Young right now, is it a recency bias? But I want to know on the level of those 3 quarterbacks where you put Bryce Young at. Is he above all of them?
In college, let's clarify. Yeah.
Yeah, in college, I think it's him and Tua. Of course, Tua had that injury late in his final season, which kind of puts a little bit of a smear on it, whereas, Bryce was there for pretty much all the games. He had that one injury, but was pretty much there for all the games. Oh, that's a tough one. I think Tua and Bryce are very similar. Okay. Put it that way. Mac, I think, is under them. Just he doesn't have the physical abilities. He was good for us, but then at the same time, the offensive coordinator was a completely different then, and I think he thrived off of that. He was just an accurate passer that was able to make on-time throws in a scheme that really benefited him. Hurts, I think, in the NFL obviously transcends Tua and Mac at this point. But in college, especially at Alabama, he just wasn't that guy. He had a massive jump in the NFL, which I was always rooting for him, but that wasn't what he was at Alabama.
No. I mean, I'm really, really trying to gauge Bryce Young, and I really like Bryce Young, and I think he'd be successful. I just have this thing in the back of my mind of a guy 2 inches taller than me playing in the NFL, and I'm worried about a middle linebacker coming clean through the middle, or a big defensive lineman hitting a spin and coming unblocked. And I just need some assurance. And I guess there is really no way to assure it. I just need something to take that away from me that makes me feel like he's not going to have a broken leg from a hit like that.
I mean, that's definitely the concern. And I do hope to see him bulk up, right? Like, I mean, he wasn't a mobile guy at Alabama. He doesn't need to be a mobile guy. He has that all in his head. Right. Like, he needs to be able to pick up 10 yards if it's wide open, right? He needs to be maybe like Aaron Rodgers, where he's mobile, but he's not a rushing quarterback.
Can he slide?
Heck no.
No.
That's the issue.
Dang it.
That's the issue, man. That he looks like, I'm pretty sure Joe Burrow is like an awful slider. He looks like that. He like cradles up. He needs to get with someone to learn how to
Nobody
slide.
slides worse than Cam Newton did.
No, because Cam didn't slide.
Cam just,
Cam lowered his
Cam
shoulder.
just tumbled, bro. He just tumbled.
Yeah, you're so used to lowering your shoulder against some college DBs. It just
looked like a baby giraffe just being born. Let's look. We got a fantasy here. We're gonna move this along. We've taken up a lot of your time. But we got to get at some fantasy real quick. It's early. A couple of things I want to get you to plug your dynasty draft guide, because we're having our first C3 Dynasty League that some of our fans put together. So there could be a demand out there for that. What's the draft value on the Carolina Panthers this year? I mean, not draft value, the fantasy value. Where's the value at on the Carolina Panthers? I always draft too many Panthers for my fantasy team. I always think somehow this quarterback receiver connection is going to work. It ain't going to work I'm not doing it for the Carolina Panthers. For me, it's Booby Sanders right now is where the value is at. Is Miles Sanders a first round running back?
First round, no, I don't think so. But I think he is the value on this team. And hey, you and me both, we've been burned by DJ Moore for the past like 5 years, I feel like. So I even got him a little signed jersey in my closet back here. We have the same last name, so that's part of the reason too. But I think the value is definitely Miles Sanders. I don't think he's a first round guy. I don't do a lot of redraft, but I think he's going to be like a very quality second, third round guy where, he's going to fall because the average draft position brings him down a little bit because everyone's kind of, hesitant on there. But I think he's going to very much outperform that second, third round value. I mean, there's no one, there's not many other guys there. Chuba Hubbard's there. I did my breakdown on him a couple years ago, and I hated him.
I hate him.
I was so
what
down
do you do? This is my first dynasty league. I've played keeper leagues before, but the dynasty league is you get to keep everybody, right?
Yeah, you keep them all. So it depends
where
on what
do we
you're
get
doing.
Bryce in this one? Where's
Are
Bryce?
you doing 2 quarterbacks or just one?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't even looked into the details yet.
I'm actually paying my dues right now.
Hey, Kev is in the chat room. Kev.
Yeah, Kev, do we got
right.
two quarterbacks? That doesn't even make sense. But say there were 2 quarterbacks, what would you do?
2 quarterbacks. Bryce Young's going mid to early second round right now. Dynasty leagues, I think, especially Superflex, because what Superflex does is that pushes the quarterbacks up, right? That makes them very similar to their real life value. Patrick Mahomes 101, right? Or Josh Allen 101. Those 2 guys are the top 2 guys. And you should generally see like the first 5-6 picks are all quarterbacks. And then you kind of get like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and some of those guys in there. But Bryce Young, he's I don't know about in this league. This league he might be a little bit earlier.
2 quarterbacks, Superflex.
Superflex, yeah.
So we've always been told in a regular traditional fantasy football league for a long time was there's not enough backs out there. So you got to get them early. You're saying quarterbacks go earlier in dynasty leagues?
In Superflex leagues for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you're starting 2, you really want to get one of those elite guys in the first round. And then you come around in the second round and you kind of fill out the roster. Maybe you take a weaker QB2. Maybe you double up on two elite guys. So that's all up to you. But hey, for all the guys listening, trade back in that, first, second round, kind of pick up some more picks if you're able to do that.
Okay. All right. Let's go on to this. Is the final thing we want to pick your brain about. Our show topic for tonight is just expectations, rookie expectations, but we've expanded it. We talked about Brian Burns' expectations for how much money he's going to get on the bag. You put out some rankings about what you thought this rookie wide receiver class looked like. Cody, can we pull that up just so I could see here? Is that the way that you kind of broke this is into a group of 3? It looks like to me, at least that's what I'm assuming the dashes 4, dashes being JSN being head and shoulders a 1. Then the next class of Johnson, Addison, Flowers, And then Mingo is down there with Downs, Mingo, Mims. Tell us why you picked this, why you rank these guys like this, and what you maybe just see them, even who's the fantasy guy in this list.
Yeah. So again, in the comments, guys, this is fantasy rankings, not real life rankings, right?
Okay.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So heads up there. But in the fantasy terms, I think Jason, and even in real life, I think Jason was head and shoulders the best wide receiver in this class. He had very few flaws, had elite traits. I think he was the guy. And then he got that first round draft capital, which is big. You look at QJ, Addison, Flowers, those three guys I didn't love per se, but they got that first round draft capital. And I think that's very big for just in general hit rates. And that holds a lot of weight. And they have legitimate traits as well. Quentin Johnson has size, speed. He's got to work on his hands. He's got a lot to work on. He's got a lot of development, but I think he landed in a really good spot. Addison landed in a good spot. Flowers, I liked him more than the other three, but did not land in the best spot, and also still has some red flags. Then we get down to that second tier, and that's usually like the day two guys right there. I really love Downs. Downs was like one of my favorite players. I thought he was great, just small. Jonathan Mingo, I think he's really good, and he's got the size. And I'm hoping it all works out, but I thought Downs had a few more elite traits than Mingo did.
All right. If you were going to target one of these guys in fantasy football, I mean, obviously you're going to go one through whatever, but who are you intrigued could potentially get you some points early as a rookie?
Early as a rookie, I think there's a couple good options here. I think, and really, I don't think it's the top four guys, honestly. I think this is, again, also like dynasty rankings is kind of my specialty, and that's what these are. And I think those four guys have a really good future onset, but I think, honestly, Mingo has a really good chance to be quite literally the wide receiver one in this, in his wide receiver core, and by like week 6, honestly, the competition in front of him is unproven, old, or not good, right? So
yeah. I mean, or hurt. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Adam Thielen, who is older, but is always produces. You have Terrace Marshall Jr., who Cody loves, who we all think is just kind of a victim of circumstance and injury himself. DJ Shark always hurt.
Yeah.
And now you got this. It seems like they're ready to give the ball to him early and often. You mentioned that you are a dynasty guy, kind of your specialty, and I noticed that you have a draft guide that people could get. Could you tell our listeners how they could get a hold of your draft guide? I think I'm gonna have to go buy it for my own damn C3 fantasy draft.
Absolutely. Yeah. On kingfantasysports.com. Yeah, right for that site, we do all the rookie profiles on there. So you can see pretty much every rookie that's come out. All their profiles are on there with their, fantasy analysis, landing spot analysis, all kinds of stuff. Part of the draft guide, we got a bunch of stuff, spreadsheets, rankings, the whole 9 yards. Go on there, check it out. The people that work there are awesome. King Fantasy Sports on Twitter as well. If you're on there, give them a follow. They always post a bunch of good, whether it's dynasty articles, redraft articles, waiver articles, the whole 9 yards. Go check it out for sure.
Man, thank you so much for your time. You guys go follow Tyler at Tyler_FF_ and at kingfantasysports.com. Man, thanks a lot. We're going to catch up with you hopefully in the future and talk some fantasy football.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you guys for having me.
Right on. All right, guys, man, we've got some good info on Jonathan Mingo. Bingo info on Mingo. Now we've got a little optimism going, except for Greg always being sad about Bryce Young. And now I guess we could talk about what we think about this team and some of the outlook going forward. We want your guys' thoughts, your calls, 252-228-5098 and 228-5098. Get your thoughts in on what you've heard so far. Cody, what's up next? I mean, the expectations, I guess, we're interested in. We talked a little bit about Bryce Young's expectations. Who's next to be thinking about?
Well, one of the debates that's kind of been raging on the internet, and to be honest, I think our guest just there just took a little shot at our wide receiver core. But this has been a big area of debate: is how good are we at wide receiver on paper? Because I mean, again, if you're looking at this, you can look at this in two different ways. Either the Carolina Panthers have a lot of high-end upside and the potential to be a really dynamic football team with big wide receivers that are fast and can go up and make contested catches. On the other hand, a lot of people think that we have a basically a below average wide receiver core. That DJ Chark is injury prone. Adam Thielen's an old white boy that's over the hill. Jonathan Mingo, we really don't know what we have in him yet. Laviska Shenault is more of a running back than a receiver, and we really don't even know what we have in Terrace Marshall Jr.
Right.
Now, I'm of the mindset that you cannot say this is a below average wide receiver core until you see them on the football field. Because it's not like these are bum wide receivers that are devoid of talent, that, are just floating around from one football team to another. Each of these guys has the potential to be a difference maker for the Panthers in some way, shape, or form this year. And I just feel like it's unfair and too early to say that this is a below average wide receiver core when there's nothing to prove that they're below average.
Cody, I totally agree with you on this one. Like 100%, yes, you are right. But can I ask, if you feel this way about people saying they're bad, why don't you feel this way about people saying someone's good?
Yeah, you can't
My
say
only
anything
question.
right
It's
now.
my only question.
Right?
But like,
It's
why do we say Bryce Young is this and this and this and this when we have nothing to base it off of, but we can't say these guys are bad?
we
when have
can't say they're good
I
either.
agree with you. I 100% agree with you, Cody. But you can't have it both ways.
No, I mean, I feel like all I've ever said about Bryce is that he has a tremendous opportunity to come in and hit the ground running. I don't know if that's going to be, like we were talking earlier, if that's going to be 31 touchdowns over 4,000 yards, or if that's going to be a respectable number this year.
Right.
Even if he doesn't break the banks, like, Greg, me and you have debated so many times about Trevor Lawrence. Before Trevor came into the NFL, there was no evidence to prove that he was going to be a good NFL quarterback, even after his first year on the job. And yet most teams in the NFL and even most fans would rank Trevor as a top 7 quarterback in the NFL. So whenever I make an opinion about what kind of potential or talent a player or a group of players have, I look at what is their potential floor and their potential ceiling. And if we're talking about a floor for this receiving core, I think injuries would end up being what hampers, rains on our parades a little bit.
Well, that's what's rained on their parade until this point, except for Adam Thielen.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. If they are able to stay healthy, based on what I have seen them do in their career, and based on how Bryce Young plays the quarterback position, I'm inclined to think that this has the potential to be a surprise receiving core for the Panthers.
It's a solid answer.
But that's the thing is, I think when you think about our wide receiver core on paper right now, I think they're average. Like that is what the paper says right now. But I think they have the potential, and I think you could say this about a lot of rosters, but when you look and see what we have as far as the young players, I think you have the potential for some really breakout stars between Mingo and TMJ. So I think that there's like, when I think about potential, I think that I'm not sure that I could see a scenario where we have a very similar situation to the Bengals, right? Where you have 3 potential number 1 wide receivers on your roster. And so that's the realization that I've come to with what we have on this team right now. A lot of people,
man, you just said, man, we thought Cody was being optimistic. You came in here, CK, and said we could be the Bengals.
Dude, you give these guys somebody who can throw the ball to them. I mean, they could be, but right now they're not. Like if we're talking about what they look like right now, they look average. But if we're talking about optimism and we're talking about what this potentially could turn into with the quarterback who can actually get them the ball, dude, this sky's the limit with this group, with the squad, dude.
I think that when we
I
talk
agree.
about, I think that this is kind of just a limitation of language in a certain case.
Mhm.
And what I mean is that average, Cody, we can't give them above average. That would be based on as little evidence as saying they're below average, right? So your argument is that you can't say below average because there's no evidence that they're below average and they have
Right.
potential. But at the same time, if that holds water, the inverse holds water, is that you really can't say they're above average because there's not really enough evidence. And yeah, you can use the Trevor Lawrence with the little sleight of hand there. But Trevor Lawrence, you were willing to trade 5 picks. You had already, it's way different than a unit working together for a season than betting on one stallion. You know,
I was just retorting what Greg had said about, why did you believe in one player?
This is though, I think what we should say though is that it's just unknown. It's unknown, but I think I can safely say this though, is outside. I don't think it's bad, right? I'm not saying, and this is why I'm content with average. Maybe I'm just going to continue. I don't even like that word, but it's if it's not average, it's not bad.
Yeah.
And I've seen bad receiving cores on the Carolina Panthers specifically, and where they're void of talent, right? Where they're void of, it's just nobody's trying to do something and playing way above their pay grade. You've got players that have demonstrated that superior level of talent. It might not be in the NFL just yet, but we're not talking about Philly Brown. We're like Philly Brown and Terrace Marshall Jr. are two different players.
Right.
While Philly Brown may actually be a more accomplished football player than Terrace Marshall Jr.,
right?
You're really going to say this is Terrace Marshall Jr. is more talented than Philly Brown was. No offense, Philly. But like, this is the worst thing that could happen. If like DJ Shark, if he's hurt, and if who is the other guy, and Terrace Marshall Jr. is hurt, then this receiving core is just not good.
Well,
but they're not bad if they're healthy.
Go ahead, Greg.
Well, can I just say that there's a correlation with this in the quarterback. If we're expecting Bryce Young, or we're saying that he's going to have 4,500 yards like that tweet said, or just say you're going to lowball it and say 3,700 yards, that means you have to have at least 1 or 2 wide receivers that have a pretty decent year.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you got to. There's no way
expect these guys. Who do you expect to have their best year? Right now, I expect Terrace Marshall Jr. to have his best year.
I hope so.
Expect Jonathan Mingo to have his best year because it's his first year.
Yeah.
But like, I think that you're bringing up a great point, Greg. And what CK said too about the quarterback play is that we've seen the worst of Terrace Marshall Jr. Honestly.
Yeah.
We've seen injury. We've seen him inconsistent on making the field. And we've seen some moments where he looked pretty good, but we've seen some moments where he didn't look great.
Right.
And that was under the worst possible circumstances, under terrible coaching, terrible quarterback play. Now, at least it's a stable environment. If he doesn't get better, then it's like, oh man. So I can't see a world where he doesn't get better unless he's just hurt.
Right.
Well, and this is why I would say DJ Chark is the one that if you had a hard time believing in just because of his injury history, fine. Okay. I would grant you that. But I don't see how CK is being unrealistic. Like, yeah, we don't have the name value of a Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. No one's arguing that. But when you look at the roles that they fill and what they do, right? You were talking about injuries. Obviously, if we have a bunch of injuries, it's not going to be good for us because we're already having to bring forward guys that we don't know how they are. But I can also do the exact opposite, where if they do have their best season, these are guys that are 6'2" and above, 220 pounds and above. Oh, and they're running the low 4.4s, high 4.3s. So they're going to be a nightmare in press man coverage. Oh, and we're going to have 3 of those types of guys. And DJ Chark, Terrace Marshall Jr., and Jonathan Mingo. Well, then we talk about Adam Thielen, right? And Adam Thielen's old and over the hill and all this He's also a red zone nightmare. And in the red zone, you're going to have to accommodate for all of those bigger bodies that are going to be able to go up and high point the football. It's going to open up a ton of areas for receptions for Miles Sanders, for Adam Thielen, Laviska Shenault. We are so multiple and so versatile at all of our different receiver weapons just because of their skill set that we have the potential to be multiple and very versatile in how we choose to attack that defense. I don't think CK is out of bounds.
I'm not in the same camp as CK, but I do believe that if Bryce Young is what he is sold as and he plays very well, he can make these receivers into that. All they got to do is catch the ball. If Bryce Young can put it in the right spot and these guys can catch the ball, then yes, I do believe it's possible. I don't think he's out of bounds. I'm just not in that camp right now.
But isn't that the whole point? So as I said, from a paper standpoint, this is not an above average unit. There's no arguing that. Stats will support that. The fact that we have an unproven quarterback will prove that, and we have a coaching staff that's trying to prove itself right now. We are happy with all the moves that they made right now. On paper, they're not an above average squad. What my point is that you have a guy in TMJ who had better numbers at LSU before getting hurt than the two best wide receivers in the league. Two best wide receivers in the league. TMJ had better numbers than Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase before he got hurt.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did this, CK, and then I want to ask all the guys on the panel this: who has the worst or best? You could say you can phrase it whichever one you want to go. The top of the NFC South or the bottom of the NFC South. Who has the worst or best receiving core? I'm going to read. We'll start with New Orleans. Right, I'll give you the depth chart here.
Okay.
Chris Olave.
They're pretty good.
Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Rashid Shaheed, Traquan Smith, A.T. Perry, James Washington, Keith Kirkwood, Brian Edwards. These are all Brian Edwards. I like him. Kirk Merritt. So their top three are Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Rashid Shaheed, and then Traquan Smith. He's young, right?
Yeah, he's been good for them, though.
Okay, I hope that's in order, right, of like kind of the overall depth chart. That's the Saints. The Falcons, just saw them. Where did I pass?
The media is darling, by the way, right now. If anyone's
so weird to me.
Here's their core.
It's disgusting. Drake
London, Mac Hollins, Scott Miller, Cadrell Hodge, Frank Darby, Penny Hart, JJ Sergey Whiteside, and they also got to throw in Kyle Pitts, kind of, right? And then the Bucks, who have the best. Mike Evans, they're the best.
The Bucks, Hey, but
are we the worst receiving core in the NFC South?
I think so.
You think it's worse than Atlanta?
Yeah.
No.
Here we go.
I don't know.
It's going to be tough.
Tell us about the Atlanta guys, Cody.
It's tough between Atlanta because I don't love Drake London. And I'm not just being like a hater here. I wasn't a big fan of his film coming out of USC either. Like he's a year last year, didn't he? It kind of reminds me of Devin Funchess, to be honest. Like, I don't know. To me, it's between the Panthers and the Falcons. And it's another one of those on paper type of deals where what CK said, yeah, we don't have a bunch of guys that have a bunch of years at the position
but
where
they're not ready to say it's
be
better.
1,000-yard receivers. But here's what I'm saying. I feel like it has the potential, and everybody's gonna get on me for being a homer or whatever.
I don't think there's. I'm not scared. I'd say Atlanta has a worse one than us.
What I'm saying is this: Atlanta. Okay, whatever. We're about the same on paper, right? But even if you want to say that New Orleans has a more known wide receiving core, okay, that might be true. Yet I still think that we could get more production out of our receivers than the Saints get out of theirs this year.
I'm ready to say this. How about this? This is the strangest thing about this whole conversation, this podcast. You guys are over there saying we shouldn't call them average. They could be all this, that, and this and that. I'm over there going, oh, well, we can't call them below average. We got to call them unknown. And I'm probably the only one of the four of us that think that we have the second best wide receiving core in the NFC South. And I'm going to tell you why. Is
We should
that
have the first.
well, we could, but it's like you would have to say Mike Evans finally is old, right? You could say that is, but like, here's what I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to try to step out there, and say we're better than the Bucs wide receiver. It's just, but here is Mac Hollins, Drake London, Scott Miller. Like Adam Thielen is a more accomplished receiver. So if you want to talk about an accomplished name, all right, maybe we say this.
But just because of time and service, right? Like those guys
like
last
year he had like 900 yards last year and like 12 touchdowns.
But do you think?
And then look, Michael Thomas, who is everybody's going to say is has only had 600 yards and 3 touchdowns in his last 3 seasons. And you're going to say he was injured, but that's what you're going to say about Shark is that he and it's arguably is just a possession receiver. I don't see Atlanta or
Olave's good.
Yeah, he's good.
I think Olave is the best receiver maybe out of everybody that we just named, to be honest.
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, we haven't got outside of he hasn't had a quarterback throw to him yet either. So I'm not sure that I would be putting him on that category yet until I start to see him consistently perform.
To me, it's not crazy to say Chris Olave is the best wide receiver. I mean, the best, most proven wide receiver out of every receiver in the NFC South.
Not the most proven,
but Adam Thielen is like an all-pro.
How about the best? I'm saying with the brightest future looking.
I basically meant between the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Saints.
You can say he's the top receiver in the NFC South.
Okay, yeah.
Because again, Mike Evans and Godfrey for Tampa.
They're older, right? Man, well, Evans is old. But I wonder who in the world. All right, where are we going next with this as we continue to try to
this brings back up another age-old discussion that we seem to continue to have this conversation like once every 5 months. Do the Panthers need some DeAndre Hopkins?
No.
And we keep on talking about this, and there's a lot of people feel different ways about this. I mean, on one hand, a lot of people, based off the conversation that we've just had, they said that the Panthers, on paper, their wide receiving core is below average, that they're not good, that they don't have a big-time name to be able to step in and produce right away. Well, if you sign DeAndre Hopkins and you add him to this already young, talented, dynamic group of young, unproven guys, that DeAndre Hopkins could be the missing piece of this equation. He was on track for 1,000 yards if he had played a full season last year. He's kind of been hurt the past 2 years in a row. But just to put in some perspective, because there's this mindset that he's just this old, washed-up rube of a receiver. DeAndre Hopkins is 30 years old and has the most receptions in NFL history for a player through the age of 30. I mean, he's over Larry Fitzgerald, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones. I mean, there's a bunch of big-time names on that list. And if you're talking about a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, so you're not paying this over-the-top money, why wouldn't we consider giving DeAndre Hopkins a shot? The most recent news is that, and I heard this on the Pat McAfee show, that DeAndre Hopkins is more than willing or more than likely going to sign a contract that's similar to what Michael Thomas signed in New Orleans. So it'll be able to get up to $15 million in incentives. So would you not sign that type of deal to add DeAndre Hopkins to this roster right now?
Definitely would. This would be the absolute, I think, the biggest splash play trade. I can't think of any other one in Carolina
Pick
Panthers
up,
history.
trade. You don't have to trade. just a free
pickup.
agency.
I think this would be the biggest pickup, biggest signing by Carolina, by a player not drafted, like in Carolina Panthers history. Have we ever signed
That's
a
a
bigger
good
name?
argument, and that's a great question. Is like really the top free agents we've ever gone and courted are. One was Ken Lucas, who Steve Smith broke his nose, right, when he punched him in the face in practice or whatever, training camp. Ken Lucas was a big name. Sam Mills. And who was that defensive end that we went and got from the Redskins in like 1999? He was a big name. He was a big ticket item. Somebody in the chat help me out with, I can't ever remember his name.
Greg Olsen,
You could say, well, Greg Olsen was
In
a trade.
99? No.
Greg Olsen was a trade. What about
Greg
Jared
Olsen
Allen?
was a trade
Oh,
in
you would trade.
2012.
The Jared Allen was one.
Mid-season. Hold on. Somebody's going to bring it to me. Steven Davis is another running back who was
Hainsworth.
And no, it wasn't Hainsworth. It was before
Kevin Greens.
Nope. After him, it was, hold on, Panthers.
Andre Hainsworth.
Panthers sign defensive and
Reggie White.
1999 from
Sean Gilbert.
Sean Gilbert. That's it.
Thank you,
Sean
Daniel
Gilbert.
S.
Thank you, Daniel S. That's the one. Here, the applause for that. The Sean Gilbert was like the first free agent. Wow, you're gonna go get him, right? You had some rookies, some people, some different things. Then you go Steven Davis. Sam Mills was in there right around that same time, and then it's like a low.
Yeah,
we got Keyshawn when Keyshawn was like 48.
Yeah,
right.
Keyshawn,
it's like his these were big time splash names, and I think you're right, Greg. Is that there haven't been many of them in Panthers history.
Wouldn't that pump some like life into this franchise for people? If you sign DeAndre Hopkins and you just sign Bryce Young, you just
what about
can you imagine what the
especially after the offseason? Especially after the offseason that we've had.
Who's the corner we got 2 years ago?
Seats.
He's up there.
Stephon Gilmore?
Stephon Gilmore's up there.
Yeah, but he was kind of on the latter end of his career, wasn't he?
I was about to say, I know you're not saying CJ Henderson.
No. Here is the crux of this, guys. Here's the crux of this. Is that if you believe that the Carolina Panthers are just trying to piece together a better wide receiver core in the short term by adding DeAndre Hopkins, this would be a poor move. It would be short-sighted. You would pay, you could afford them. We would be better with DeAndre Hopkins than without, right? And it would just be like it would just be over in a year or two,
right?
It just wouldn't be a thing. But for some reason, though, on the other hand, you tried to fight the impulse to hear old, washed, can't run, and you pulled a player in who actually has got more juice in the tank than people give him credit for, that has far more talent than people ever gave him credit for, and love to give other people undeservedly. And you think that DeAndre Hopkins could continue to do what he's kind of done over the last 3 years? Is everybody has tried to predict his demise. And every time I watch this dude play, he's making plays. He's getting catches. He's doing all this awesome shit. So it's like this is we all expect and predict. These guys we all get kind of paid. We don't, but the guys who are pull the tweet up about the people saying he can't run anymore or whatever. And these types of things, we try to predict those because we believe they're going to happen at some point. But what if his game could turn into a guy that you mentioned on that list, Cody, and a guy that played for the very team he just left? Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald was the most explosive wide receiver in the NFL in his heyday. But then he became one of the great wide receivers in his heyday still, just in a different way. Is D Hopkins, will he become that type of player? And I right now am not ready to bet against him on this because every time I see him play, he's fucking making all these great plays. But there's all these crazy narratives around him, strangely, that somehow do not follow other players, I think, in this league a lot of times. But one is he doesn't practice. Like, they don't. I mean, this guy has produced just as much as any player in the league, aside for the suspension, maybe. Is that some sort of sign that, like, you know, he thinks that he's falling behind and he's trying to catch up through performance enhancing drugs? Cody, this guy produces. So if you think he can produce for 3 years, put him on the Carolina Panthers, not with the idea of him being the one for 3 years, but being a 1 this year, a 1A next year, and a 2 the following year when you bring in Jamar Chase, the next Jamar Chase, to put on the other side of him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm of the mindset that, and I kind of said it earlier, when you have a rookie on a rookie contract, do everything in your power to surround him with talent. And I even look back a few years ago when Odell Beckham Jr. signed with the Rams. Odell Beckham Jr., a lot of people doubted and still doubt that he's the wide receiver that he used to be once, you know, a long time ago when he was with the New York Giants. But he didn't even need to be. He was the perfect complement to the weapons that they already had in Los Angeles to put them over the edge offensively. And I'm sorry, but you cannot tell me that DeAndre Hopkins couldn't do the same right now, especially on this team. Like, you have a bunch of younger guys. So one of the problems that people are, you know, trying to put out there is, well, he's not going to practice all the time, because they have to limit his reps because he's a little bit older. And if you have a rookie quarterback, you want them to get on the same page during the season.
And like he's 38.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Not only is he not that old, but two, you have a bunch of other younger guys that you already signed to the roster that you're going to be able to use as warm bodies during training camp anyway. So to me, it doesn't bother me that much. And also, you know, let's be real. A lot of people don't want to do this for a few reasons. One, they believe that we still need to go out and get another defensive end, that we need to get somebody to complement Brian Burns, which the Panthers have not done as of this point. Maybe they might do so before training camp once some of those numbers start to come down a little bit, potentially, right? But to me, even that's not a good enough argument, because you only have a certain amount of time to load up your team with offensive talent to give your team a chance to put up all these wild points that the Kansas City Chiefs can put up, the Buffalo Bills can put up, the Philadelphia Eagles can put up. If you want to be a serious, legitimate contender, yeah, DeAndre Hopkins is going to help that no matter what. And YB Jordan in the chat room says the receiver room is too crowded. But then at the same time, we have a bunch of people that are like, we don't even have anyone on paper. Why do we care if Laviska Shenault gets bumped out and ends up being the odd man out? Like, does anyone really give a damn? Like, sorry, Laviska.
I want to make this clear.
Shark. Go ahead.
I don't think that it is necessarily about Laviska, right? So right now we have and probably the most consistent rotation of wide receivers is going to be Thielen, Chark, and Thielen, Chark, TMJ, and Mingo, right? Those are going to be the guys that are on the field the most this year. That's by all accounts, unless something crazy happens in training camp. My only concern with D-Hop, and this could be a double-edged sword, right? It could be good for them, but I also think by him coming here, it's basically putting the end to TMJ. Like, TMJ's career here will be over if you bring D-Hop in. And I'm sorry to say that. That's not because I think that he's not going to be good.
Why can't he just be on the other side?
Because you have Thielen and Chark that you just paid. You're not putting them on the bench and playing TMJ instead.
True.
And Mingo, you just drafted in the second round. You're
well, if
put
that's
him...
it, if it's the end of TMJ, if that's what it takes to get DeAndre Hopkins here, Goodbye,
I don't know,
TMJ.
Dude, do you want a 1 year, 2 year rental with D-Hop, or do you want a guy who can be here for 10 years and possibly take the throne away from Steve Smith as the all-time receiving
Now
leader?
you're just making
Why
numbers
couldn't
up.
we do both, though?
Can I ask a question?
It's like that Mexican taco girl. Why not both?
Yeah. Look, there's no evidence at all to prove that D-Hop is like slow, can't separate, like has fallen off the edge. Okay. But when you say those things, who does that remind you of that we just signed for 3 years for $25 million that everybody loved that we signed? Exactly. And everybody says that about Thielen. So let me ask you, if you could sign DeAndre Hopkins instead of Adam Thielen to somewhat similar contracts, which would you choose?
You wouldn't get somewhat similar contracts. Thielen is going to be more.
Thielen's 8. Let me look at it. I have it pulled up right here. Thielen is 3 years, $25 million.
No, D-Hop would get more money. All right, but who really cares? What are you going to do with the $3 million, Cody? Like, I mean, CK, what are you really going to do with the $3 million you save by not signing them? Right, you go pay somebody else.
$3 million you save by not signing him.
Well, because you're going to have to add other people in some sort of capacity. So say you go, oh, we want to save that money for next year. You have it roll over. Does that money really help you tremendously? Or are you just going to get 2 crappy running backs with that money? If you are, is it better to pay $13 million for DeAndre Hopkins or $6 million to DJ Shark on a 1-year deal who could be hurt the whole time? And couldn't even hold DeAndre Hopkins' jock. I just don't. I feel we would be better, and I don't think it would break the bank.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, if the most you paid was a $15 million contract, but it was because of incentives, so $15 million would be the high end.
Yeah.
Like why
would you not want DeAndre Hopkins for 3 years in Carolina?
Yeah, because this is the time when you sign players other than quarterback. You build around the quarterback with other players you can play. Then when the quarterback is time to come up, you sign big wide receivers or free agents and draft players that want to come to the team.
If we could sign a 3-year deal for this player, DJ Shark, 3-year deal, and you can pick whatever the terms are as long as they're realistic, and DeAndre Hopkins to a 3-year deal, who do you think you're going to be better over the next 3 years with? I mean, are we ready to just say because DJ Shark is 27 and DeAndre Hopkins is 30? I'd like to have DeAndre Hopkins better than Shark. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd rather have him than Thielen. I almost wonder what if DeAndre Hopkins and Thielen went and played like old grandpa basketball on everybody for the next 5 years.
Yes, dude, that's
just dished up. Like, I mean, Greg Olsen wasn't super fast, but he was like running in his old, is that. Yeah. I'm just saying, do you think DeAndre's washed, CK?
No, and never would I say that. I don't think that he's washed.
I'm not just curious.
But I believe that there is a ticking, piece to his career. I mean,
sure. I mean, I'm sure he would rather go to Kansas City.
Right. And so, but I think he would. And that's why I think this is all going to be a moot point. I think this is a Bills, Kansas City Chiefs bidding war over DeAndre Hopkins at this point in time.
Right. And I'll even add on. I'll add on to CK's argument. The one thing that's working against us is that more than likely he does not want to play for a rookie quarterback. And he was even on a podcast where he even said as much. Now, you might ask me then, all right, well, then why are we talking about this? If he said that he doesn't want to go to a team with a rookie quarterback, like what's even the point of the discussion? Well, if you look around at the landscape right now, there's only a certain number of teams that even have the cap space this late in the season to reasonably be able to make a DeAndre Hopkins deal work. So he might not have, I'm sure DeAndre has a laundry list of all the different things that he would want from a destination. Yet he's probably going to have to be willing to concede a few of those. So, maybe he doesn't want to play for another rookie. But at the same time, if he can fit into a situation like what we have here in Carolina, then I think he would be dumb to not look at that as a perfect opportunity. Again, like what I said earlier, it reminds me of the Rams a few years ago where they signed Odell Beckham Jr. He was a perfect complement to that offense, and yet they didn't have to demand the ball from him, or they didn't have to get him the ball and force feed him the ball all the time. Imagine you have Terrace Marshall Jr., DeAndre Hopkins, DJ Chark, and Jonathan Mingo on the field. Who are you going to double? Who are you going to double in that scenario?
And you can, you said Thielen. I think too that he would be able to command more money here, right? So is this at the end of this is what's going to go is that if he wants to play for a team that checks all those boxes he has, they're going to have just as much leverage as he has, right? Or more, right? Kansas City says, sorry, you can come play with us and we can go win a Super Bowl, but we also just let Tyreek Hill walk and we don't have enough money because we got this super guy right here, Patrick Holmes. And if you want to be a part of it, we'll do it for 1 year, $6 million. But that's what you got to take. Then you go to somewhere else that's next up the totem pole. They say, hey, we want you more than they do. We're not as good, so you might not want to come here. But we're cap strapped, and we can only give you maybe 9 years. I mean, $9 million a year.
9 years.
But $9 million a year, right? And then you go to somewhere like now the Carolina Panthers, not ideal, but enough of a, at least optimism surrounding what Adam Thielen saw in the coaching staff to change his kind of mind. He wanted to go to a team that was a contender. And then you get now the Bryce Young quarterback, like the number 1 draft. So that sounds a lot. Now there's a quarterback there who could be good. You got a division that's kind of weak. And they're willing to pay you 30, 40% more than the other team. Money is the thing that would have to bring him here. My point, I think, is this, and I think the crux of the matter is if he is a Band-Aid, then it will be more expensive than you want it to be. But if he's a useful tool and can have a career on the trajectory of a Larry Fitzgerald, right? And he keeps his shit together and he stays healthy overall. He's been productive. I just feel like he's going to have his next 4 years will be more or just as productive as Shark's next 4 years for any team you put him on.
Okay. That's fair.
Hey, by the way, so our boy White Chocolate Espresso donates $5 to say, yeah, he has the juice in the tank, Tony. It's why he didn't play 6. So, see, he donates $5 just to talk a little bit of shit because he knows
somebody else said that he took the steroids to help with that MCL. And maybe those are the case. Who knows?
And by the way, he tested positive for a drug called Ostarine. Look how prevalent Ostarine is in other substances. It can be taken. It can be gotten, but it can be gotten in. It can be gotten in over-the-counter GNC supplements from time. It's not even some major shit. So it's not something that scares me. And the last super chat, Anthony Picarello says we have the second most cap space. Pay him, if not edge rush. And am I wrong? I mean, tell me what you guys think. Like, am I crazy for believing that we could theoretically sign DeAndre Hopkins and another edge rusher? Now, maybe the Brian Burns contract might have to be put off a little bit. Right now, we're at around $27 million, but we haven't paid the entirety of our rookie class yet.
Right.
So it's realistically, we're looking at about $21 to $20 million that we're working with right now. I don't know. I mean, why couldn't we sign DeAndre Hopkins and Jadeveon Clowney? Or is that just too much of a good offseason for the Panthers?
Too much of a good offseason for the Panthers, to be honest. I listen, we've made so many splashes this offseason, just with moving up and just the people that we were able to sign. I've been a Panthers fan for far too long to expect anything more than what we've seen already. This has already been an offseason of outliers for us. So that's what we should nickname this season, this offseason, the offseason of outliers.
Ooh, I like that. That kind of rolls off the tongue.
I'll tell you, though, the further it goes along without either one of those two players getting signed, the better chance we could sign both of them.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of people that I think it's worth bringing up. And that is, you can talk about, I know we have Miles Sanders, but you have Kareem Hunt out there. You have a potential post-June 1st cut in Dalvin Cook as well. I think you have some people out there that you could also reach out to from the running back perspective, because we're not hurting at running back, but we're certainly not a sure thing right now. Miles Sanders has been good, and I'm not going to take anything away from him, but it couldn't hurt to have another double-headed monster there in the back.
That's where we can save money, though. Is and the only thing that doesn't make me super excited about hearing Clowney and Hopkins together is I actually think they would both help us. I would think Clowney would be a 1-year thing, and I was hope
He's
that
always
Hopkins
been a
would be
1-year thing, yeah.
more. Yeah. But then it's just like now we're just throwing all of the old man squad together.
Yeah.
Right. Is that we don't need now like Kareem Hunt.
A bunch of old country boys.
Right. And so at some point, I don't want to get but so old there, but you're right. And it's not outside the realm of possibility we're going to have to, our arguability is that you're going to have to get a defensive end. And the question is, can you get a defensive end and DeAndre Hopkins?
Yeah, that's what I asked when you walked away for a second. Like,
right,
why?
No, but I was trying to just follow up.
Yeah. Like to me, there's no reason why we couldn't. We're probably at around 20. We're probably right now, even though it says 27 million for the Panthers in cap space, we haven't signed all of our rookies yet. So realistically, it's probably somewhere between 21 to 19 million dollars that you're having to work with, and we haven't given Brian Burns his contract for the year yet.
I think though when you negotiate his contract, it'll sound big, but it probably would help the Panthers fiscally the way that they build it. Is that dependent on how much that guarantee money is, they get to prorate that. So they could do his salary in a way. It's just like how much that, but there's a world where Brian Burns is he on the 5th year tag right now?
Yeah. He'll be playing his 5th year this year.
Yeah, so it's like, what does the 5th year option make in their 5th year? Then we can figure out that
the average of other players drafted at that position.
Can I just give a shout out real quick to an incredible patron of the C3 Panthers podcast, Just Don't Care.
Oh man,
gifting 5 memberships in the chat. To Anthony Piccarello, Scott Thomas, CJA, Risby, and Anthony Montgomery. You are the man, Just Don't Care. You always are, brother. We appreciate you, man.
Hey, can I ask real quick? So let's just say that we have the opportunity to sign a defensive end or DeAndre Hopkins. Cody, is there a defensive end out there that if we could only have one, that if you had the opportunity to sign DeAndre or this defensive end, you would sign the defensive end over him? Based on the fact that we know our wide receiver room is stronger than our defensive end room right now. But is there a guy out there you would sign over DeAndre, like a defensive end? 'Cause I don't think there is.
Maybe.
It's only Clowney.
Maybe. Well, I would say maybe I would say Leonard Floyd is a better prospect than Jadeveon Clowney. But what the fuck just happened, dude?
You made yourself the star.
No. And of course, I got rid of like all my other options.
I got you.
But no, Leonard Floyd is the only other name that comes close to that for me. But even still, it's hard for me to pick Leonard Floyd over DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, right. That's
I mean, he has the most receptions for any player before his 30th birthday, or that crazy shit that I just said last
year.
Yeah, like that. That's the dude's insane, man. I would prefer to give Bryce Young every opportunity to be successful rather than some defensive end that might be here for a year or two.
All right.
And what if we do have something good in DJ Johnson or a Marquise? I know that's a stretch for a lot of people, but maybe we're not as much in need of a player there in the line.
Or maybe the guy that you go ahead.
Isn't that the exact same reason that I just give as to why we shouldn't go DeAndre Hopkins? Because we could have a guy who could do something on the roster now. Like, isn't that the exact same way to look at that?
Right, but none of those other players have equaled to be what DeAndre Hopkins has been in the NFL. Like, so yes, you can make that case that DJ Johnson and these guys, they can step up, but there's also so for example, there's not a Myles Garrett out there in free agency,
Sure.
and maybe if there was, then maybe
He's 30
this is
years old. And
yeah,
his name's
maybe this is a
Jadeveon
different
Clowney.
conversation.
He's 30 years old. His name. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Is the goalpost? It's like how far does the goalpost move? And really, is the best guy in free agency that good at defensive or at outside linebacker? Is technically, I guess, what we need to start calling it instead of Ed, whatever, right? But the guy on the other side, who is another pass rusher, is that the guy that you're going to get? Yannick Ngakoue, I don't think plays in the right system, so you don't know if he would be the scheme fit that people are looking for. Maybe he would be, who knows? But the best of that crop is going to probably be a little bit more expensive than they're going to make your team better. While DeAndre Hopkins will be expensive, but I think makes your team better just as much. So the question is, can you get a guy who's mid-level? Well, could you get like Leonard Floyd instead of this dude, or could you get somebody and D-Hop, or do you just get one of those guys anyway and just roll the money over till next year and try to figure out what to do in the future?
Well, CK, you said that it would be an outlier offseason if we ended up doing that, and that really rolled off the tongue really well. Well, you know what else rolls off of your tongue really well?
Started this off weird.
I'm here for it.
Bro, whenever you shame these bunch of freak shows that congregate in the chat of the C3 Panthers podcast, I'm going to need you to talk to them, Big Papa.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, you've come to the C3 Panthers Podcast to talk about whatever's going on this offseason. News and possible outcomes, things we have no idea are actually going to come to fruition. And you've come here for 2 hours and 40 minutes, 109 of you, and you haven't hit that thumbs up button yet? You haven't showed that support to your boys over here at C3? I have one thing to say to all you absolute legends. Subscriber shame.
104 people watching, 62 thumbs up. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell for every single time the C3 Panthers podcast goes live for $1.99 a month. Consider hitting that join button. You get all kinds of custom badges and emojis as we get deeper into the season, as we put out more and more content for the channel. All of that will go out live first and foremost to our super fans for only $1.99 a month. We appreciate you guys greatly. Tony Dunn, you want to jump into some cat calls?
Let's do it. The number's 252-228-5098. Let's rock.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in the snow? Who's that kid that can use one?
What's up, C3? It's Anthony from Charlotte. Just was out working and I thought I'd call in a little late today. Had a lot going on, but regardless, saw the headline of the show was rookie expectations for the Panthers. Been talking about this a little with some people. Obviously, as you four horsemen know, I'm a big Bryce Young believer and fan. My expectations for him are honestly around what Cam Newton. I think he'll have a lot less interceptions than Cam did, but that's because Cam was just simply a gunslinger. He would sling the ball all over the field. He didn't give a fuck if he threw a pick or not. He would try to make a big play. So I'm predicting for Bryce, I'm predicting about like 3,900, 400 yards, like 20, 21 to like 24, 5 touchdowns. Then maybe like 200 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. I really don't think that he's going to run a lot. I think his motto is going to be getting the ball out as quick and effectively as he can. But he's also, when you watch him on film, he is a small guy, right? But he is very good with lanes, just running lanes, throwing lanes, all that. Like, he'll just know when the right time is to run. So those are my predictions on him. And also, side note, I don't know if you guys can tell, but maybe it's just me. I think he's bulking up a lot. He looks a lot more, quote unquote, thicker. Yeah, I know that sounds really weird, but yeah,
thick.
He looks a lot bigger, and you get what I'm saying, than he did playing at his last season at Alabama. So you can tell that Sitter was not lying about that nutrition plan. They probably already got him on something. For Jonathan Mingo, quickly, I would say probably like 500 yards, 3 touchdowns, maybe like 30 catches. I don't know. There's 3 other guys in the depth chart that I would put right in front of him ahead, in Adam Thielen, Chark, and Marshall. But the big thing is that since DJ Chark is usually an injury-prone player, knock on wood, hopefully he's not this year, he would get a lot of opportunities for that. DJ Johnson, I don't care what anyone says. I still think he's going to need a year or two to truly become a starter. Same goes for Jamie Robinson and Chandler Zavala. I think he'll just be a serviceable backup for, the first year of, figuring out what this offensive line looks like right now. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. Anthony from Charlotte, keep motherfucking pounding.
Keep pounding. CK, would you mind doing me a favor?
Of course.
Put on that slick voice of yours, lean into your microphone, and say, Bryce Young is thicker than a bowl of oatmeal.
Bryce Young is thicker than a bowl of oatmeal.
Oh, yeah. Now you're speaking my language, baby. What's up? Yeah, you're right, Anthony. My man has been beefing up a little bit like everybody's been wanting to. He's going to continue to do that. But if you're going to talk about his numbers, hey, I'm going to be real with you, man. Like, I don't see why 30 touchdowns is unreal. I feel like everybody feels like I'm just some Homer fan that at the beginning of the season, I just go balls to the wall with my predictions, and maybe I kind of do, but I just, like I've laid out before, with the amount of weapons that we have and the ability that we have to spread the football around, knowing we have guys like Miles Sanders and Adam Thielen and Hayden Hurst, guys that are going to be able to make some nightmare matchups on the field. I'm sorry, it doesn't read as unrealistic to think that Bryce Young could be in the running at least to break the rookie touchdown record. We've said forever that whoever the Panthers draft, whatever quarterback the Panthers draft, they were going to be in the best position out of all the rooks coming out. So I believe that. I stand firm on that. And I really do think that Bryce Young could put up some very decent numbers this year.
All right, let's go to the next call.
What's up, C3? Tyler here. It's been a minute since I've called. Been busy with life, but hope you guys are doing well. Still catch your podcast on YouTube, but just wanted to give you guys a quick shout out and thanks for all the content you put out. It's a lot
Appreciate
of fun
you, brother.
to watch and listen to. So just wanted to give my thoughts on the expectations of Bryce Young and the rookie staff, rookie players that we got this year. As far as Bryce Young, I expect him to compete and hopefully win the division. You're going to get the rookie mistakes, but I really expect him to have a really fast learning curve, which seems like he's already begun doing. I want to see each game, like, if he makes a mistake, he doesn't make the same mistake twice or as often, right? I really honestly, just from how smart he is, how well he processes, I expect a little bit more than I would as far as the learning curve goes than other rookie quarterbacks. But I just want to see him get a little bit better each game. And then I would love to be able to see him to start taking over some games here and there, like making a couple big splash plays that make you realize, oh wow, that was why we drafted him number one. I don't expect him to just kill teams with his legs or his arm, but it's just, again, that IQ, that fast processing, being the point guard of the quarterback position. That's what I expect. I hope I get some good playing time. Another reason why I would love for us not to get DeAndre Hopkins, because I want those younger wide receivers to grow. But I expect him towards the end of the year to be Terrace Marshall last year, towards the end of the year. Like, just the hype that I'm hearing from him processing and kind of getting things going along a lot faster than anticipated, and just his physical presence. I could see him doing like 450 yards for the season. So I definitely feel like we should win the division. I can see Zavala maybe taking over via injury or just him outplaying Brady Christensen. We'll see. But that's my expectations for the rookie class. Hope you guys have a good one. Keep pounding.
Great call. Great call. I think very reasonable. But here's one of the things that comes with that reasonableness. You get me excited. You get me dang excited, Cody. And I've gone to the place like this is I think that's fair. Right? And I don't want to set unreasonable expectations for Bryce Young. But I tell you this is that I have him. Because he was the number one pick. And if he doesn't merit that excitement, if he just merits, he's going to be pretty good. And we're happy to see, hopefully, he'll become a good player in the league. I'm going to be fucking pissed. That sounds like Tua talk. To me. I want to hear this shit. I want to hear in week 6, like, oh, shit, we got the best quarterback in the goddamn league. Excuse my language. But if we can't get that excited, why was he the first pick? So my expectations are there, and I believe I'm ready for him. I'm excited. It's hard for me to just say, oh, I want him to. And I do think that, hey, that's the fair perspective, though.
Sounds like your blanket's getting a little wet, Tony. Just letting you know, man. It sounds like you're coming to the dark side.
Yeah, it got wet on the other way, Cody. That's how my Cam Wow used to get.
But again, it's also knowing that, and we've documented this before. Every other pundit that thought Bryce Young could do no wrong before the draft. Now that he's
on him.
Yeah, now they're like, nah, he'll be all right. He'll probably have some growing pains. I don't know if any of you have been following Eric Mangini just continue to slander Bryce Young at just about every opportunity that he gets. It's disgusting. So, again, you're going to have that. It's like whenever you have people doubting our guy, of course Panther fans are going to be like, no, fuck it. 35 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 4,500 passing yards, like all of that.
I want it.
That's what I'm saying.
He can do it. He can do it. If he can't do it, Cody, I'm not saying like that is not a good season, right? I'm not saying like, oh, if he doesn't do that, then he sucks. That's not what I'm saying. If he doesn't do that, there's plenty of that's like you'd be like, oh, well, I'm sorry. He didn't have a Hall of Fame week 1 start or season 1 start. He had a very good one. It's not if he doesn't do it. If he can't do it, if he could not be that player, then he isn't also, he's not great. But I think he can be great, right? Is like what I'm saying is this is that he might not get those numbers, but to say that those numbers are impossible to get is also devaluing the commodity that you just put everything in, you invested everything in. And so if you don't think he can do that, then we shouldn't have drafted him number 1.
Yeah. And again, spreading the ball around is what Bryce Young does well. That's what the Panthers are set up to do. So I'm pumped for it, man.
I have listened to Young. I have listened, and I have bought into Bryce Young. I am a full believer. You guys have converted me into the brain game, the feel, the finesse, all the things that negate his size and just whelming physical ability. I'm excited. Like, I'm expecting this. Is like I'm thinking, oh man, Joe Burrow wasn't the most physical, impressive thing. We can find limitations in his game. Joe Montana wasn't the craziest physical specimen, but he's the greatest quarterback in NFL history. Tom Brady wasn't that physically gifted. He didn't have the biggest arm. He hadn't most mobile. He didn't have any of that, but he had it.
Right.
That's what you've convinced me that Bryce Young has.
Yeah.
It.
And you remember earlier, I've said this a few times to you now, like like you said to Tyler earlier, he doesn't have that one elite physical trait except playmaking, right? Playmaking, that is his trait. But I think that we even need to pump the brakes on that a little bit, because I think that kind of gives the false narrative that we feel like this can't be a potent downfield passing attack for the Carolina Panthers. And I really feel like we might be able to do that this year.
Well, is Burrow's downfield threat because he is physically elite, or is it because he's a baller?
He's a baller, and
right?
His
And that's so
is that perfect, and that's what Bryce
we
does.
think that Bryce Young's going to be able to make that explosive offense, not because he can throw a missile, but because he's going to see that he's going to put the ball right where it needs to be. How many times did we see? Look, it doesn't matter if you have a cannon and you overthrow him. It doesn't matter if you have a cannon and you underthrow him, right? So you need to be able to connect. And so if he's out there just dealing, all of a sudden he's like the John Stockton of the NFL, and he leads the assists for the history of the world.
Steph Curry, let's do it. He's out here.
I don't know. I'm ready for this guy to. They all told us that was the case. They all told us this is why he is the number one. Now we got to just embrace it. That's what it is. The number's 252-228-50.
Hey, before you go on to the next phone call, Tony, Greg has to get out of here. He's going to jump off. Greg, we appreciate you, brother. Give us some final thoughts, final words for the show, man. You're muted, bro.
Sorry, I do that at least once a show. So I appreciate it, man. Yeah, sorry. Wifey's off on Tuesday and she's not normally, so I'm gonna hang out with her. And I just look, once again, I know I'm the wet blanket, but I just feel like I'm a realist. I just want to see production. I think that we have a good shot of having a really good team this year, but I've just been so invested the last few years and being so positive and being let down that I want to see some production before I start to get insanely excited. So, but looking forward to
Greg. Good news for you, Greg, is that one, the fact that you muted your microphone one time in the show, and that you have continually avoided over optimism has convinced me that you did not successfully 3D print yourself. You are the authentic Greg.
That's true. That is true. I definitely did not do that. So. But no, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, guys. I really appreciate it. Check me out at the Bet 52. You can find all my stuff. I'll be with y'all soon and good to go.
All right. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah. Later, y'all.
Let's get to Tyler's. He had a couple of seconds left on his call. He got cut off.
What's up, C3? I got cut off.
It was Anthony. Excuse me.
This is just a quick little part two. There's something else I wanted to talk about real quick. Cody, my boy. I get we have to pay Brian Burns, man. But I don't know, man. It's just I get he's the only pass rush. I'm just afraid that we're going to give him this Myles Garrett bag, and then he's going to not play up to that. Like that price tag is tremendous, man. Like he's got to have a really good season for me to feel good about that. My only problem with this whole thing is that the Panthers, how stupid they were. I don't know why they ever leaked or someone leaked, which was very smart, that the Panthers declined 2 first-round picks and a second or third for him. That gave him all the leverage. So, yeah, in a way, I get what you're saying. It's just I hope he plays up to it, man. That's all I got to say. Keep pounding.
Keep pounding. Listen, I understand if you or any other fan feels like, in between $25 to $27 million a year is too much for Brian Burns. I understand that. But what I'm meaning to say is simply what alternative do the Panthers have? They obviously haven't done a good job of replacing him or getting someone else. So what are you going to do? Say, nah, all right, see what money you're going to get somewhere else. Because listen, if the Panthers don't do it, I promise you, there is some team out there that is willing to overpay for Brian Burns.
Yeah.
Just simple fact of the matter, someone's going to do it. And then that's another scenario after Christian McCaffrey, where we've let one of our most popular players, one of our most dependable players, walk out of the door. Now, Christian McCaffrey was a trade, granted, but even still, the fact that you let go of someone that has been the heart and soul of your defense and your pass rush, like it just isn't a good look from every way that you look at.
I want to say I'm glad you brought up Christian McCaffrey, because I think Christian McCaffrey is a part of the reason why people are a bit timid, right? What did we do with Christian McCaffrey? We paid him. What happened? He got hurt for 2 seasons after that. And then, yes, did we get some out of him? Yeah, we did. When we traded him, we did. We got some benefit out of it. But did we get as much as we would have gotten if he didn't get hurt for 2 seasons? Not a chance. So, I mean, I understand the fear of signing Burns, but I have to tell the people who have that trepidation, Brian Burns, and I don't mean to be a broken record, has been the only person on this team on the edge that has gotten consistent pressure. I know he's the king of almost, as many people would call him, but he's been the only person, even through double teams, through every possible thing they can do to try to slow him down. He's had the most sacks on the team, and outside of Hassan Reddick, who we only let walk, to the Eagles, which is a great situation for him. Outside of that, Brian Burns has been the only person. And the fact is, it seems like he wants to be here. And that's a similar, sentiment that we've got with Shaq Thompson. So I'm in agreement. I think you have to pay the guy.
You have no choice. The Carolina Panthers have no choice but to pay Brian Burns. And honestly, that doesn't make it an unwise decision, nor does it, undermine or counteract people's concerns that it might be an overpay. Right. You're talking to a guy on this podcast who likes Brian Burns, but continues to say he's a very, very good player, not among the elite at his position. And when I say elite, I'm talking about the top 5, right? And I think he's kissing that all the time. I think that there are reasons he hasn't gotten that. You can tell me about the quality of talent around him. You can tell me about the teams that he's played on. You can tell me that he almost has had it, and he just had the breakthrough last season. All those things are true. The fact of the matter is that you already committed to Brian Burns when you didn't invest in the position in a significant way in other ways, whether that is in the highest of draft picks, whether that's in, and not this number 1 draft pick, but you went corner with JC Horn. There's been opportunities for you to continue to build through free agency. You built your future plan with Brian Burns being the top player on that defensive line. And so he's going to get that money. And arguably, he does deserve it. I don't think he's going to be better than Myles Garrett, but this is the natural rhythm of yearly inflation at every position. So if the concern is that you're paying him a little too much, too bad. That's what happens. You don't got the best credit. You're walking in and buying a car. Again, this is much like the DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs or DeAndre Hopkins to the Carolina Panthers. You're walking into the car dealership with the best credit score if you're the Kansas City Chiefs. And you get to dictate the terms of, I can put cash down, I can finance this, I can walk away right now. You're the Carolina Panthers, and you just went through a divorce. Your credit's not great. You got some income, you got some promise, but you ain't getting the best rate. So that's just the real fact of the matter. And who has been up here for years saying, this is why I like to get ahead of these things.
Yep.
You already knew that Brian Burns
years
was the
ago.
plan. You knew he was the plan when you didn't commit to other means. I just wish they would have gotten this done before they placed the, gone ahead and done it before this year. But hey, he's going to get paid. No problem with it. And sadly, it might be $2 or $3 million more than you want per year. But you know what? You're going to like him on the team rather than not having him on the team. People used to make fun of Charles Johnson big money because we overpaid him. And as long as he lives up to the contract, in 4 years, you'll say, oh, he's cheap.
Yeah.
So that's
you were right. You were wanting to pay him for a long time, but again, that
same
cat
with Cam.
is
We paid
out
Cam
of the bag.
early. We paid Cam a year early, and it was one of the best things we ever did.
Yeah.
You got him on a good right before the. Imagine if you wouldn't have had Cam on a contract in that 2015 year.
Yeah, I mean,
and he comes out there, the NFL MVP, hitting free agency. Cam Newton would have been paid $100 bazillion in 2016, and he still could have had that same career that ended in disaster in certain ways. The number is 252-228-5098. Let's go to the next call. Come on.
I don't hear anything.
I don't either. Playing. Why are you not playing? Oh. Bluetooth down.
Ooh.
Talk for a second. Oh, no. It's picking up somebody turned on the speaker downstairs. And it just hooked up to, I bet you my wife is trying to listen to music.
Hey guys, Black Cat 95 here.
Well, Black Cat.
I think Brian Burns is always taking flack from the fans about only being a 10-sack guy or so. What people don't understand is the defense is on the field way too much. The offense should be so much better that the whole defense gets better, and Brian Burns' numbers will go up, and they'll realize that he's an elite player. It's hard to see that right now because in the last few years he's been on the field way too much because we can't keep the ball on offense when the rest of the defense will really improve. Thank you.
Oh, shit. Sorry. I'm trying to preview calls.
What's up, C3?
She's been on the field way too much because we can't keep the ball on offense when the rest of the defense will really improve. Thank you, guys. Love the show.
I hope so. Most people seem to think that we're improved all the way around. Listen, if I'm going to be a wet blanket, if everyone's going to take turns being their version of the wet blanket, I'm a wet blanket on defense, man.
Me too.
I have a lot of questions about our defense that I don't know if we've answered. We're finally moving to a 3-4 for the first time in a very long time.
Ever.
No, I don't.
I
don't
one
consider,
year in 1998.
But yeah, and I definitely
like
don't consider whatever Ron Rivera did a switch to a legit 3-4. It wasn't enough of a switch, in my opinion. And again, maybe that switch to a 3-4, maybe that does help Brian Burns to live up to that amount that we're going to end up paying him. I don't know. When I think about this season, the defense is kind of what keeps me up at night. And there's actually two things I want to get to, Tony. If you don't mind, I want to jump back into these slides real quick. Let me ask you boys this, Tony, CK, is this going to be the most lit Panthers training camp? Like the most anticipated Panthers training camp of all time? Not only do we have our number 1 overall draft pick with this first time at Wofford College, but then you also have Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets coming to town for some good old training camp brouhaha action. Like, man, dude, in my mind, this is going to be the most anticipated Panthers training camp / preseason, maybe ever, certainly in recent memory.
CK, you said it confidently. Why? And I'll follow.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of unknowns, and you have a lot of promise. Like I said, optimism for what we have in this team. And I think that we're going to see a lot more offense than I can't say that we've been excited to see an offense. We've been optimistic, but I really think we legitimately are going to be excited to see what this offense is going to look like. And training camp is going to be able to give you your first real take of what this offense is going to look like. And I think that's says something. Whether we're seeing the reps all go to Andy Dalton, or if we see Bryce Young taking all the ones, and maybe even Matt Corral getting an opportunity with the two, so that he's not in the same boat he was last year with only getting the reps with the people that are going to be on practice squads for the rest of the year. If that, then there's just so many things that are going to be worth keeping your eye on. How TMJ and Mingo fit into this offense, how Adam Thielen is doing, how Hayden Hurst is returning from his hernia, Brian Burns from his ankle surgery. I mean, there's a lot of question marks about what this team's going to look like, and I think that this training camp is going to start to answer those questions. Plus, it means that we're like a month away from football when that happens.
I'm moving myself to the top for this one. The question was, will this be the most anticipated, lit, exciting Panthers training camp of all time? The answer is, if it's not, shame on the Carolina Panthers. Look into my eyes, Carolina Panthers. This is the golden moment. You have technology married with the top storylines. You have technology married with optimism. The Carolina Panthers have faced a PR nightmare over the past 6 years, since 2016 to now, that has gone from a sale of a football team. And now everybody looks at Jerry Richardson like he's a damn hero, when 4 years ago they were canceling that mug, right? Jerry Richardson, right? Then you go Cam, MVP, and the crazy storyline of quarterback carousel that's followed that. You've had a new coach. You part ways with Ron Rivera, somehow bring back Marty Herney again. Marty Herney never died through all of that process. You get Matt Rule. You pay this guy a remarkable amount of money to fail and be a total disaster. Your billionaire owner faded in popularity and left a practice facility in shambles because ultimately, whether he's right or wrong, who cares? It has been a nightmare for the Carolina Panther brand and name and hope. They keep pounding. You like barely want to hit the drum at times. And then to top all that off with, you heard that the social media team, which at one point was the bright spot of the Carolina Panthers, and all of the internet was being micromanaged by Matt Fool. You had those rumors. And then last year, the crackdown on any off video that gave anybody a taste. I look into my eyes, Carolina Panthers. If you're listening here, lean into this moment. Don't take a short-term look at the opportunity for economic growth that you can build in the brand. Lean into this moment. Partner with podcasts. Partner with it. Everybody needs to be going. Everybody, we need to be looking at Twitter and all this shit just popping off completely about the Carolina Panthers brewing excitement. We need it, like us organizing trips to go and be like making YouTube videos about tailgating and going to see Bryce Young, and have CK flying a drone around us while we're drinking whatever. We need that, because this moment is only here now. Right? It's the hottest. The iron is the hottest of hots. Strike. I want Panther fans retweet and keep, like, when training camp opens, if you want to protect your brand so much that you won't let people take a selfie, then you are ruining your brand. You might as well put transsexual on a damn can that nobody that buys that cares about that issue. You need to lean into this moment, Carolina Panthers. So, Cody, to answer your question in my final roundabout way, if this isn't the biggest, most exciting, hyped, partied training camp in Panther history, what would it fucking take?
Yeah.
What would it take?
Yeah.
This is the moment.
It is. It is the moment. It is the moment for the Panthers. And, the fact that the Jets are coming to town, I love that test. We're talking about our defense and, how good are we actually going to be on defense? That's going to be a great test for us, too, to have Aaron Rodgers testing out our corners and our linebacking core. And I mean, that's going to be pivotal for us. So I'm happy about the whole thing. I do think it's going to be the most exciting Panthers training camp ever. Dude, it's a brand new time for the Carolina Panthers, and I'm just happy and blessed to be a part of it, man.
The only way this doesn't, CK, be the biggest unless they sabotage themselves. I mean, self-sabotage could be an actual thing. And what I mean by is not embracing that opportunity to its fullness and kind of seeing what you can make of it. The only thing that would be greater is that if this coaching staff and this team just went out and fucking beat ass, and then all of a sudden, next year would have to be good. That's stumbling into greatness. The Panthers need to walk into it this moment. We need to be all buying the hats. We need to all be there. We need to all be partying together, making videos, building up Spartanburg commerce, and take all of this, rise the tide there with that Roll Tide quarterback. Gosh, what else did you want to talk about too, Cody?
Yeah, this is something that we've been talking about, that I've been talking about for a while. And I finally wanted to take a moment to have at least somewhat of an in-depth discussion about this, because I've really been thinking about Jeremy Chinn and the fact that we're almost on the last year of his deal, the last year of his deal. And we really don't know what position Jeremy Chinn is best suited to play. And knowing that you're going to have to pay Jeremy Chinn next year, this is such an important season for Jeremy. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is to get you guys' opinion on where you think he will where his best position to be played is this year, and how does Jeremy Chinn factor into our future plans. So we've already talked about Brian Burns, but you're also going to have to pay Derek Brown at some point. And Tony, I know you and I have had many discussions about Panther fans not realizing how important Star Lotulelei was when he was on the team. And then he finally leaves and goes to Buffalo, and you realize, oh, wow, he may not have been the sack getter, all the flashy numbers and shit like that, but the very presence of Star Lotulelei made the rest of the defense flow that much faster. I feel the same thing will be true for Derek Brown. So let's say hypothetically, Jeremy Chinn plays nickel linebacker or nickel safety, like a lot of people are saying that he's going to. And frankly, like a bunch of people in the organization have said that he's going to, that he'll play some of that role. He'll play some times at linebacker. Tony, CK, my fear is that he's a jack of all trades, but a master at none. And I don't necessarily know if we're going to be looking to pay Jeremy Chinn Derwin James type of money after this season, especially, let's say he has a great year this year. You've only seen him have 1 year with a lot of high production at a specific position.
Right.
And I just don't even know if you would go out of your way to overpay for a nickel linebacker. I can't help but feel like Jeremy Chinn is going to end up being the odd man out of this equation.
I think that is that sadly this is just going to be the reality of the situation, like you said. What is the more replaceable position? And in so many ways, this type of player, unless they are just truly at a level that is transcendent, like Ed Reed type player, like where it's like, gosh, having that safety on that field is just as important as having a corner. Like he's that good where he like does something to the game that a great defensive end does. He's a player who is one of these multi-tool players. So then he can't even be elite at one position. He has to be very good at a bunch of positions for him to stand out. He has to be an elite linebacker, elite safety, elite corner, all this.
Right.
And that's just impossible. The fact of the matter is he's more replaceable than Brian Burns is. He's more replaceable than Derek Brown is. And while he could have a great season and a player I really love, like he's a guy I want on my team.
Right.
If it comes down to a choice of what's best for like what you can do to continue to build and put together a team, I think you can find a way to do it without Jeremy Chinn. But hey, what you're really hoping for is that he is pretty good this year and the coaching staff sees him as really good and they know he could be really good and they go ahead and sign the deal, get some more time out of him, and they don't overpay it. They just pay him what he's worth. That would be the ideal situation. He, I think, makes our team better, Cody, but I don't know if he's a player that we couldn't be good without.
I agree. And I even think that we drafted his insurance policy in Jamie Robinson, or as you like to say, Jamie Robinson.
Jamie.
I think that, again, just the nature of his position. And you have to factor in position value when having these conversations. That safety is far more replaceable than a shutdown corner. So J.C. Horn's going to be more important. Safety is not as important as a run-stuffing defensive tackle. That's going to be more important. That's another position value thing. There's just too many. There are too many ways to look at this where Brian Burns is the odd man out, and I think it's a problem that we're going into the final year of his contract, and we still don't even know what position he's best suited to play. Like you have Xavier Woods, and ideally he's going to play your free safety.
He's a 1 year thing, though.
Yeah, well, okay, but still.
Well, the question is, is Jeremy Chinn a free safety? And the answer is no.
No, right. That's my point. Xavier Woods or no, you're not putting Jeremy back there. Then you just signed Von Bell, and let's be real, Von Bell is kind of similar. To
he's more
Jeremy
proven
Chinn
than Jeremy Chinn at that position.
Yeah, for sure. So those are both of your primary safety positions filled. Then right now, if you look on the depth chart, they have Shaq Thompson at inside linebacker, and they have Frankie Louvu as an inside linebacker.
Could he supplant Louvu? You're like, huh? I don't know if he's a better Louvu, though.
As of right now, they have no plans to insert Jeremy Chinn as one of their primary linebackers. So
what does he do? Play nickel corner?
This is my whole point. I think he's either going to be a nickel corner primarily, but to be honest, Jeremy Chinn doesn't have a home. And I think that's a problem. And I think that it's a little bit, we have messed up his development by trying to make him a jack of all trades. Tony, I believe it was you that was saying, right before we could have drafted Isaiah Simmons, that a lot of times these players that are like multiple position value type of players, even though they might be incredible in college, they fail to find that similar production in the NFL. And we've been talking about that with Isaiah Simmons. And I feel like low key it's kind of happened under our nose with Jeremy Chinn. I mean, he's a great leader, but he's never graded out as a top tier safety or a linebacker.
The idea, and so look, is that what Panther fans will say is that Thomas Davis started as a safety and turned into a very good linebacker. Right? That's the example of a player transitioning and finding a home. There's a lot of other questions, though, is that when it comes to these multi-tool, then you get the Shaq Thompson for me, which I was sold on. Shaq Thompson was my Isaiah Simmons. He was my Isaiah Simmons in 2015. I was in love with the pick. I was sold on that new football, new style of football, this kind of new game where you needed this type of athletic player to do all of this and this multi-tool player. But if that is such an asset, let me ask you this. We just drafted a defensive end in the third round. His name is DJ Johnson. What if I told you, DJ Johnson, multiple, can do all of this? He can be an outside linebacker. He can rush the passer. He can even play tight end, which he did in college. Would you be like, oh, shit, we got a player who could fucking play tight end too. You wouldn't be like, oh man,
No.
that's awesome. Like, it's like you would just be like, oh, I guess that's neat. Nobody does that. We need you to be the best fucking defensive end.
Yeah.
So look, is that Jeremy Chinn though has shown flashes. This is why CK loves him and I love him. Is that rookie in that sophomore season, he put together an argument that said he was a player in the caliber of a Derwin James. We weren't having these questions about where to play him. It was like, how do you get this motherfucker more involved?
Yeah, more around the football.
Yeah. But the thing is after a season of and then questions about everything that's going on, you can't put him in a category of a Derwin James. You know, I mean, you can't. He's just not the top player at his position. And arguably, I don't know if I would pay a safety that much as they did, but James is that type of player. He's a dog, but he's got some injury history too.
Yeah.
I just think Jeremy Chinn's going to be one of those players that probably will have a good career, but might not make as much money as some of these other dudes.
Yeah, and going back to the whole Derwin James thing, it's like, yeah, Derwin James, he's had some injuries, but for the most part, when that guy is on the field, he's a nightmare. I mean, he's a matchup nightmare for, everyone that he goes up against, be it receivers or tight ends or what have you. And there's also been this notion amongst Panther fans for a long time that we overpay for mediocre talent. And a lot of times, because we fall in love with these guys and who they are, that we end up cutting them a deal that's a little bit richer than what they're worth. Shaq Thompson. So, you know what I mean? So I'm of the mindset that even though we love Jeremy Chinn, even though he brings a ton to this defense, I don't know if it's going to be a good idea to re-sign him. And by the way, that's even depending upon him having a breakout season this year. Like if Jeremy Chinn balls out, but that's what's going to make this conversation a lot harder for us.
Well, that will.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to make it harder, but even then
easier because we won't be sitting here going, "Oh, we don't know where to play them."
Yeah,
we will have cracked the code. If we're having that conversation, we've cracked the code of what Jeremy Chinn should be. The thing that Cody, the one difference though is that the idea of us overpaying people, that one is a history that is tied to the Jerry Richardson lockout years. And news came to light that Jerry Richardson promised some of his, he had some favorites, right? He had favorites that he would invite over to his house and be friends with, kind of like Steve Smith. He loved Steve Smith, D'Angelo Williams, Jonathan Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
He loved these guys, and Charles Johnson. And what there was rumors that, because remember, Jerry Richardson was the owner, making fun of Peyton Manning holding up charts in the meeting or whatever about what he's like, what the hell you know about finance? And like he was the hardballer for the owners at that time for coming out of those negotiations.
He was like the face of representing the NFL ownership.
Right. Yeah. And he drove a hard bargain. He wasn't rolling up. He wasn't. So there was a belief, and I think there's been some confirmation about this, is that he knew that they were going to be bad. He knew the lockout was coming, and he just said wait, guys, we're going to hook you up, certain ones of you, if you just stick it out. And that's why they double paid D'Angelo and Jonathan. That's why they paid Charles Johnson $76 million or whatever. He rewarded. There were some rumors about that. Yeah. But the difference between that is, one, we don't have that kind of situation. Two, the other way you overpay is kind of being the Brian Burns situation, is being backed into a strategic corner. Yeah. And I don't think Chinn can do that to us, fortunately, and unfortunately for him. It's just you could find a way to manage without him. So if it just comes down to the money, and maybe Shaq Thompson was a reward, maybe you didn't have a choice.
And it's like I said earlier too, I think they're betting on their younger talent, on this specific coaching staff being able to coach up the younger guys on the football team. So again, I'm not arguing that we're a better defense without Jeremy Chinn. I'm saying it's far easier to replace what Jeremy Chinn does. And that's not even a slight against Jeremy. But if Jamie Robinson ends up being a good player and he's able to play that big nickel, play downhill, play fast, kind of be another version of a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, now it makes it far easier for you to let Chinn see what his market or what his value is on the open market.
I think that Christian McCaffrey is a different caliber of star than Brian Burns. And it might not be super far away, but I think Christian McCaffrey is one of those crazy great players. It's just and there's an argument if he's healthy in San Francisco, you'll see it. He'll be the top of his position.
Yeah.
But the thing is we can build an offense easier without Christian McCaffrey than we can build a defense without Brian Burns right now. So while Christian McCaffrey, I believe, is the top of his position and more of an elite player than Brian Burns, I think Brian Burns is more important to the future or the current state of the Carolina Panthers.
Agreed.
And while that isn't Jeremy Chinn, it applies to positional value and things like that. It's like quarterback, and we'll figure it out. Defensive front, and we'll figure it out. Corner, and we need JC Horn. That's it. What's next? And then we'll take some more calls.
So what's next is we need to talk about how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to basically show they're going to show the NFL how to tank this season. Because I'm going to show you some clips of the current quarterback battle in Tampa Bay between Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. Let's look in on how it's going, boys. Swing and a big old miss for Baker Mayfield.
Nobody's in front of these people, by the way. There's no line.
Exactly. Kyle Trask. Bobbling. A little bit off the mark. Another Kyle Trask.
Nope.
Too far out. Off the mark. Here comes the little boy Baker Mayfield. For all them Baker bottoms down there in Tampa. Oh, just over the head.
Terrible. It just looks exactly what it looked like in Carolina. Oh, he completed one.
Finally get one on the money.
Did you hear that guy said that he's already had teams saying that he was going to be tanked? Like they were already in the plans for trying to get him.
That doesn't
he's
surprise
come
me.
out and said like people have told him, and then the other said is they've called him. They're calling him a more refined Patrick Mahomes.
Who's saying that?
The USC quarterback. Isn't that who that is?
He's saying that people have told him that.
Well, I saw the Dove Kleiman.
This dude right here. Everyone is talking about him being the next version of Patrick Mahomes, and he's probably more of a straight line runner than Patrick is too.
But he's had guy like, well, I know he didn't say that. When they kind of mixed this, the tweet I saw mixed like three things together. One was him saying that that teams have told him right away that they're looking to get him in next year. And they told him that last year. Right. So like teams that could have drafted a quarterback this year kind of are like, we coming for you in the future. And then they put in another quote that people are hyping him up to be a more refined version of Patrick Mahomes. But man, the Bucks, how about that? The Bucks may just fucking suck.
Yeah, dude, they're
going to be the Carolina Panthers of last year, weeks 1 through 5.
Yeah, potentially worse. I mean, I know that they've got some defensive players, but I just think they're going to show the NFL how to tank this season.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know what other.
Let's take another call real quick, all right?
And while we take that call, everybody can determine who drew a better Panthers logo.
Oh, God.
Sam Darnold or
what they do to my man Bryce's head? What's going on there?
He's got
That's a hat.
I think so.
Oh, is it one of those Picasso hats?
I'm not sure. I
It
think,
looks like one of those French artist hats.
yeah, something. Yeah. I think that is what it is.
All right, here we go. Let's go with a call 252-228-5098.
What's up, C3? My name is Levi, aka Raleigh Panther on Twitter.
What up, Levi?
I know it's been a slow week in the news cycle, and we haven't gotten much new content to discuss, but just wanted to call in anyways and stir the pot. I really wanted to speak on the fact that I just feel really good about this coaching staff, and after watching last week with Frank Reich, I just left feeling, good about the current state of our team. I think Frank Reich communicates very well. I think he answers and doesn't shy away from vulnerability in himself or the team, but just seems a lot more convicted and unwavering than Matt Rule ever did. Whenever I would watch a Matt Rule press conference, I really couldn't stand how dodgy he would be and how you would always somehow leave with more questions than answers.
Mm-hmm.
I know Frank has a lot to prove this upcoming offseason before he gets his flowers, but I feel like in the offseason, these are just kind of the little things that I latch on to. I think Frank Reich will just have a lot more buy-in from the players than Matt Rule ever had. But anyways, I just wanted to get y'all's thoughts on that and maybe ask what you guys think he brings to the table and what things specifically you guys like about him. Anyways, love the podcast, man. I've been listening for a couple years now and look forward to it every Tuesday, and hope you guys have a good rest of your night. Thank you.
Levi, appreciate you, brother.
That's
Fantastic.
the call of night for me, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now. Call of night for me.
You want to go first, Tony?
Yeah, CK, I'll pass it to you guys. I just feel comfortable in Frank Reich's hands.
Yeah.
Is that sure? Is that do I need to prove to you guys, not to you guys, but to the world that he is the best quarterback in the NFL? I don't need to prove that, nor do I necessarily think it at this moment. But I think he's a very quality. I feel like I'm comfortable with the person driving the car, and the person that was driving the car last time was a guy that everybody said, "Oh, he's cool. He's cool. It's all good. It's all good. He can drive. It's cool. He's cool. Man, I've seen him drive. He's nope. Crash right away. Crash right away. I feel comfortable with Matt Rule. With Frank Reich, not Matt Rule. Matt Fool. Frank Reich is and so I think his floor is better than Matt Rule's ceiling ever was. And I don't think we've seen Frank Reich's ceiling yet. And to be honest, Frank Reich's been a very, very good and successful coach in this league. Hey, he's been I guess the only question, could you say that Ron Rivera is a more successful head coach than Frank Reich? And there's only one season that would tell you that the answer would be yes. Without the magic season of 2015, you're on mute, by the way, Cody.
No, you're right. Truly only that one season.
Would you be how about this? Do you want Frank Reich or do you want Ron Rivera? I'm taking Frank Reich.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I am too. I'm taking Frank Reich. And by the way, they even mentioned that at OTAs, everything seemed to be much more formal and that it felt like a professional training camp. There is an air of professionalism around this team that it lacked when Matt Rule was stinking up the joint. Look, I'll never forget. There was that one video that went out. It was Matt Rule walking out to the game with the Panthers behind him, and it looked like they were going to a funeral. Like they were going to a wake or something.
We quickly realized that there was nothing about Matt Rule that was exceptional.
No, nothing else. There wasn't even how about this? There wasn't even anything about Matt Rule that was even average.
The only thing, and in hindsight, here's the thing: when Matt Rule was hired, we didn't hire him as a guru of anything other than he was a CEO of a team.
That's it.
Right.
That's what it was. That's what we looked at it. That's what his and in the moment,
a program builder.
That was what we thought we needed because we had been so far with Ron Rivera. It just felt like it wasn't going in the right direction. And so if we're going to get a new coach, we need somebody who's going to build this program up to a consistent contender. And Matt Rule just fell flat on his face and was not able to even come close to giving us that type of level of success that we were expecting. So yeah, you're absolutely right. There, when you in hindsight look at what Matt Rule was, he is 1,000% did not live up to what he has no special.
It was
nothing
part of the
special about him.
hype. It was just it was so hype driven and narrative driven that it shows you the power of collective voice in our culture right. Is like it was pervading the radio waves, it was pervading the podcast, it pervaded the interview rooms with the Meatball Herney and David Tepper. Even if that he was a builder and a CEO, the problem is he was a CEO and he didn't know enough about football. It's like bringing in the CEO of a chicken company to run a football company. Right. And just because you can send emails together and give the right speeches of motivate, like the 3 whatever, do it whatever, and all of this is that's not enough. You need to have those traits. And so what the whole idea is this, and this is the one thing in a comparison to a quarterback thing that we've talked about ad nauseum on this show, is he didn't have an elite trait. He just had some good traits, but he didn't have a single elite trait. And if you're trying to tell me making Temple and Baylor, what he did there was an elite trait, that's not even like the caliber of like of what Saban did. And, like that's not even close to those accomplishments, and I mean that he was a complete fraud. And to be honest, I don't even blame it on him. I blame it on the whole media that convinced me at one point to be excited about this guy.
Yeah. I mean, and by all accounts, when you look at in that moment, we were so naive, right? There were a lot of people out there who were real on top of this, right? He was a college coach. He had limited to, if any, real experience building programs outside of the 2 that he was a part of. And so the idea of giving him what he got was just unreal. It was astronomical. And it set a precedent that I don't think that the NFL wanted to set. As many owners, from what we heard, were angry with the offer that he made to Matt Rule. Man, and the thing that sucks is when I look back, we were so hopeful when he did his speech. It was about, we're going to bring a Super Bowl. And there was a part of me that wanted to believe it so badly.
Well, you have no choice at those points but to believe it. The thing about Matt Rule, too, though, is that he was the shiny, poorly constructed car or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Is that while you walk into the dealership and it's got all the new Bluetooth shit and it smells beautiful and it looks all of these different things, it's like one of those, people I don't know. I know Kia has become a respectable brand, I think, by this point. But there was a couple of car brands just like, oh man, they look so great. And then 4 years later, they're just not worth anything. It kind of reminded me when I was 16 years old, or no, I may have been 17. I went and test drove Mazda Miata. It was a stick shift. I was 16 or 17 years old. And they gave it to me for the weekend to tool around in. And it was like a convertible. And I was like, oh, fuck. Or no, it wasn't a Mazda Miata. It was the Civic, the Honda version of whatever the Miata was, whatever the fuck that little tiny car was. That's for girls. And I was like, oh, Dad, I want to. I was like, I got to find a way. And my dad was like, this is the dumbest fucking car ever. Right? Like, no. And look at yourself, son. You're in a girl's car. And I took it back and I was like disappointed for 4 seconds. And then it was like the best decision I ever made. Right. And it was just like, so Matt Rule was the girl's car that had Bluetooth in 1999.
Yeah.
And a convertible that you couldn't even fucking put my hockey bag in the trunk. So tiny.
That's accurate. Honestly, a really
God,
great
what was
analogy.
that? CX. It was the Honda version of the Mazda Miata.
CRX.
Well, the CRXs were kind of cool for a minute. The hatchbacks and shit like that. I'll look it up. Let's go to the next call.
What's good, C3? Is JJ.
What up, JJ?
I'm hoping Tony likes this call because it's gonna be one of those fan interaction ones, I guess. But no, I'm really just trying because I'm still caught up on that whole BS from last Friday free for all, where Twan and Kevin was on my head top for wanting to call DJ Moore a low-end wide receiver, top 15. And they never gave DJ the benefit of the doubt, talking about how he plays with a garbage team. And then all of a sudden, whenever it came to talking, they wanted to sweep that shit under the rug. But whenever it came to talking about Steve Smith, which he wasn't top 5 in the 2000s, like a lot of people outside of Panther fans disagree with that shit. I don't really think he's top 5, which, I mean, like, he's close to it. And the whole point is he's still a Hall of Famer, but,
right.
Like, I was just like, but as soon as it came to talking about Steve Smith, they wanted to bring up quarterback when I brought up Reggie Wayne supposedly being better, and whether he is or not is regardless. But I hated to see the inconsistencies, and that was some BS. Anyway, Kevin and Twan, you capping for that. But on the other hand, who's a player on the team y'all expect to have a big breakout year? I think Greg said TMJ. I'm trying to convert him to the Jonathan Mingo bandwagon because he's wide receiver 1 this year. Sorry, Greg. You might want to switch bandwagons. Mingo Nation, Mingo Magic. It's gonna be all 2023. All right, C3. I catch y'all this Friday through fall. Hopefully everyone likes, comment, subscribe. Keep pounding.
Keep pounding. Appreciate you, JJ. Yeah, man, join the Friday free for all as well as every Friday at 7 p.m. It's a very lively discussion. You can join. Anyone can join every Friday at 7 p.m. And if you're gonna ask me,
heated this past week.
Dude, when isn't it a little bit heated, bro?
Right.
Everybody,
Yeah, people are just coming at each other. It's like, y'all
everybody gets all angry and emotional, but at the end of the day, everybody's all hugs and kisses and shit. So, what I'll say is this: JJ asked, "What player do I think could have kind of like a breakout season this year?" And I'm gonna say a player. So I'm not gonna say Jonathan Mingo because I feel like a lot of people, without having seen him play before, feel like he could be a big impact guy for the Panthers, right? I'm talking about a player that nobody is really expecting to be a big name for Carolina this year. I'm going Brandon Smith, the big, fast linebacker that we drafted the year before out of Penn State. 6'5", I believe, ran a high 4.3. 245 pounds. The dude is an animal, and I want Ejiro Evero to get the most out of these athletic, talented young players that you possibly can. So my breakout player would indeed have to be Brandon Smith.
Mine is actually on the defense as well, and I think people don't believe he can be the type of player that I think he can, and that's Frankie Louvu, who I think has more shades of Hassan Reddick in him than people give credit. I'd like to see, what if the answer was on our roster? What if the answer was on our roster? In the words of Ron Rivera and Dave Gettleman, man, Frankie Louvu, could he be a dangerous player in Evero's defense? Or is he going to be another guy that kind of gets washed in this we don't know what to do with him player? But the best plays that he have are around the line. Get that guy in there and pressure the quarterback. Let's go to the next call. And CK, you got anybody you think's gonna break up?
Yeah, TMJ.
You're the TMJ guy. And actually, I hope that's
TMJ.
the case. If that's the case, we're gonna be in good shape offensively for a while.
Yo, it's your boy Juan, aka Sports Freak 28. Just calling with the segment y'all said your free for all where the Carolina Panthers go after DeAndre Hopkins and go defense. Well, I was thinking the Panthers have $30 million most in cap money. We can go get DeAndre Hopkins probably for about a minimum of a year or two, veteran contract, worth about maybe $3 to $8 million, $10 million. If he does a couple of stuff on lists like catches, touchdowns, then we can go get Kareem Hunt. Because we do have currently Chuba, Hubba, and Miles Sanders, but we need some help on short games and long games and passing games. Also, I think Leon Floyd would be a good pick for defense because we need some more help on the D-line to get after their quarterbacks, cause more blitz and more mistakes by other teams. So I think the Panthers should go after those three players to make the offense defense much better. But I think Jonathan Hopkins need to come home to the Carolina Panthers where he's from. He's from the Carolinas. He needs to really come home and play another year or two and retire in the Carolinas as a Panther and not as another team player. He goes to the Falcons, the Saints, or Buccaneers. He will not be loved by the Carolina Panthers or the fan base anymore because he's playing for the rivals and he'll be hated for maybe a while after he quits his career. But what do y'all think about Hopkins to the Carolina Panthers? I think it'd be a good fit. We need a new wide receiver since we traded DJ Moore to the Bears. I know we got Mingo from Mississippi, from Ole Miss, and he was a good pick of the draft. But I think Hopkins would be a good pick for us to get now because he could be a mentor to the receivers, probably a future receiver coach in the NFL. I think he had a great future being a receiving coach too for the Panthers. A good mentor to young rookie receivers like Mingo. So yes, we should go after him. Kareem Hunt, because Kareem Hunt, Miles Sanders can help Chuba Hubbard evolve more into elite running back. And we can at least get our odds from 7,500 plus, and we support maybe down 200 or 300, and just prove that Hayes Brown, prove the Chris Brown that our record next year. The team will win about 10 games or winning. That's it. No, we're going to win at least 12 to 14 games if we can get these three players. Prove Ron haters, come on, prove Ron. But keep pounding. Go after that with the money. Spend wisely these new players we need. We do need to boost our offensive D-line, and let's get the goals. Let's win the South for once. It's the hairs up. It's been too long. This is the year. Let's do it. Let's go all in. Vegas style, boys.
Let's do it. Great call. Appreciate you, man. And I think DeAndre Hopkins would be a great presence for for Jonathan Mingo, for the younger guys on the team. I think he would be a great mentor to them. Also, to piggyback on your point, think how great of a mentor he would be for a rookie quarterback, for Bryce Young. I mean, think about everything that DeAndre Hopkins has been through, everything that he knows about the game, about timing. I mean, he could help Bryce evolve his game. And I agree with you, man. There's no reason why the Panthers shouldn't be able to run the NFC South this year, brother. I would like to sign Leonard Floyd. I think Leonard Floyd will be a little bit too expensive. But DeAndre Hopkins, I'm sold, man. Bring him home.
Floyd would be more expensive than Clowney, really?
Oh, I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I think Floyd would be more expensive than Clowney.
Oh, wow.
I think he's been a little more productive and he hasn't been hurt as much as Clowney has.
All right, 2 calls left and still a lot to talk about.
Hey, guys. It's the girl that makes him howl, a.k.a. Joey the Blind Panther. Haven't called in a while because
what up,
the
Joey?
lack of news has been so big that it's even shut my big fat mouth up. But not today, because you know what? I heard about, y'all were talking about Myles Garrett apparently, being available. And boy, wouldn't it be great to get Myles Garrett to do a big fat Mason Rudolph to Russell Wilson so we could stick it to Sean Payton Oh, dude, that would be great.
Who the heck said anything about Miles?
Right back
I think
at
it might
Sean
be just
Payton.
I mean, you might have misheard us.
But, then I would make Sierra sad, and, I never want to make a girl sad.
I know. I was
Anyway,
thinking
guys.
this. You know how I can get Joey to call back in.
How's that? Damn.
Wakanda forever.
I was angry.
Joey the Black Panther. Stick around, Joey, because later in the show, breaking news: Caroline Cam coming back to the Carolina Panthers.
Oh, really?
No.
Yeah,
no. I wasn't. No, I just made that up. But Joe, I could. Man, Joey would be calling in right away.
No, but that is true. Her husband,
well, I know.
the guy that she married is on the staff now. So she
right.
is.
No, he is part, but she has not been with the team in an official. They're all with the Kristen
still
Balboni.
with me in spirit. Okay.
There's
She's
room
with
for
me
two.
and Joey.
There's room. You know why they can't hire her? Because she's so much higher than fucking Bryce Young and Kristen Balboni.
Oh, she'd be looking down on him. Oh,
Kristen Balboni is so short, though. When
Yeah.
she interviews Brian Burns, she holds the mic up like the Statue of Liberty. And Caroline Cam would have to hold. She would be like stooping over like Big Bird to talk to Bryce Young.
Yeah.
So it's just might not be the best combo ever. It would kind of look like that. Having her and Kristen Balboni together in the same screen doing like a Panthers pregame show would look like that. Do you remember when Kyler Murray sat beside it wasn't Kyler Murray, it was Derrick Henry was in that big chair with that little cornerback or whatever. And there was that picture of Derrick Henry in his rookie year beside the smallest guy. And it was just like, this is incredible. That's why it can't happen.
Yeah, hey man, shout out to all my short queens and all my big birds out there. It's all beautiful,
there you
baby.
go. There you go. Next goal. Last goal.
Listening to the show, I think we need to figure out what is actually an injury considered. Is it broken bones? Or is it just your normal run-of-the-mill injuries, pulling the quad, pulling the hamstring, twisting an ankle?
He's talking about what we were talking about.
To me, it seems like we got to figure out if they're injury prone, who is injury prone, and what are the injuries of their history. To me, it makes no sense to say a player's injury prone if they have flesh issues or muscle issues. To me, being injured is they're going up for the ball and breaking a leg, breaking an arm, and it's a sustainable injury that reoccurs. To me, that is an injury prone player, not somebody who just pulls a muscle. Once a season or
I think
2 times during the season. To me, that makes no sense. But I agree with you guys. If we have a bunch of injury-prone players, it's going to be hard to have a dynamic offense. And so then other people are going to have to step up in your 2s and your 3s and wide receivers. But anyway, thanks for taking the call.
Oh, shit. Oh, man. Last call and my phone died. Look, it's shutting down right now.
Oh, no. So we have one more.
That was the last call.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
Nice.
we made it through it. I suppose should have been putting it on the charger before. When we started the calls, I had 2%, and I've been putting it on the charger, pulling back. The answer, that was Diesel Skills, and he was going to probably give us a great plug about because he is our propagandist.
Shout out, D. Hey, I call that the brand ambassador.
Yeah, brand ambassador. The answer to his question, though, is it really doesn't matter about the severity of the injury.
Right.
It could be like some guys have had blown out knees and have great careers. Some guys can't get over a fucking toe. The answer is, if you're injury prone or not, is do you got more hockey player in you or more baseball player in you? And a baseball player will have a ingrown toenail, and miss 6 months. And a hockey player will get his face busted in and get stitched up and go back out there. Now, I'm not saying that these guys have to play through it. It's just like, what can they endure? No player is fully healthy in any football season. It's just who can make it and who the guys that can't. And some guys have knee injuries and come back. Some guys have knee injuries and don't come back. Some guys have all this toe, Dante Jackson. And the answer is availability. Availability. Yeah. And if you're not available, you're prone to being unavailable.
Yeah.
That's a good.
Would you say, I mean, with that question, would you say Dante Jackson is injury prone?
Yes. Sadly.
Yeah.
He's had an injury every year except for 2015 and
not
like
just
maybe
an injury,
2 years.
Like he's had multiple
he's missed
injuries.
Time. Yeah, he's missed time too, right? Just straight missed significant time. Yeah. Right now, JC Horn is injury prone until he's not. Right? He's had more injured time. He's had more injured time than available time. That's another thing. How about this? Is that if your injured time starts to approach your available time, if your unavailable time starts to approach and climax or outweigh your available time, you're injury prone. If you play less than you play more. And that's why Brian Burns has had injuries, but he's played. And I'm not saying these guys are soft. I'm not saying that, but it's just the fact of the matter. The fact of the matter is that Christian McCaffrey was injury prone for the last 3 years. Part of that was us protecting him. Part of it was he wasn't available.
Right.
And now he's available. And now he's not injury prone. That's it. Let's power through the end of the show. We still got a couple of fun things to talk about still. We don't have to do everything. We can do these quickly, Cody, is this one. We talked a lot about the receivers. And maybe this, just to circle back to a discussion that we had earlier, and we debated this pretty intensely. I wish we would have gotten this slide in that somehow. But we said that this wide receiver core wasn't you say calling them average is an insult. I say calling them below average. They're not below average, but calling them above average is just optimism.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
The fact of the matter is there's not in the top. We don't have a top 32 receiver.
Right.
And some people have contended we don't have a top 50 receiver on this squad. I think that you could probably say Thielen is a top 50. I think you could say DJ Shark is a top 50 if he's held, some arguments, maybe. But if we don't have top players, how do we have a top unit? And Cody, when we look back at that, what was the last slide? Let's do that one first and then just talk about and parallel that one. Rank these four. And I think my rankings will be different than y'all's.
So between Devonta Smith, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, and who is that?
I think it's Amon St. Ra.
Yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown. St. Brown.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah,
I just called him
I mean, dude, I remember liking Devonta Smith more than Jamar Chase coming out of college because he won a Heisman. He was a great separator. He was a great route runner.
He's a very good player, dude.
He is, man. I tell you what, I'll just be fair. I'll go Jamar Chase number 1, Devonta Smith number 2. I'll go Jalen Waddle number 3, and I'll go Amon-Ra St. Brown number 4.
CK, how do you feel about that list? Mine's different.
Honestly, Chase has got to be number 1.
Right. Agree.
I think this is a tough one, dude. I think it's a tie between Waddle and Smith. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown would be number 4. And that is named Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah. Yeah. Amon-Ra St. Brown. My order goes Chase, even though he's not my favorite in this group. I mean, he's the best in you can't deny he's had the best season in arguably in receiving histories other than Jerry Rice and Randy Moss. Best rookie season, arguably.
Yeah.
He's like, the numbers and the talent and the youth just don't, and the quarterback, they don't lie. I think then I go Waddle. I'm sorry, man. Waddle is crazy explosive. Like Waddle is like a little Tyreek Hill to me in so many ways. I know that people don't say he's the same, but this guy has a gear that is unbelievable. He just he could do the peace sign to fucking Tyreek Hill almost. He's that fast. Then I go Dante Smith, who is just way better than he should be for being that thin. And then I go Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't know, man. People really love this guy. I mean, he had 106 catches. I mean, he's had 2 good seasons back to back. 912 yards, 1,100 yards, 106 receptions.
With questionable quarterback play.
Yeah. But they have to pass the ball. I mean, they're passing. Well, he's great. He's good. But I tell you this is, I don't think he's just exceptionally better than anyone than Waddle or Smith. So that would be mine. Chase, Waddle, Smith, Brown, St. Brown. Yeah. But then let's go to the list real quick, Cody. How do you feel about that as you continue to tell us we're not an average wide receiver group?
What, this list right here or the next one?
The next one, yeah. And then we'll just keep moving. Like, we're going to keep this conversation brief. No thoughts?
Wait, about this list specifically?
And what it tells us about our offense, maybe. Who cares?
Yeah, really, it's a bunch of who cares, man. Like, where's Cooper? So they got Cooper Kupp, number 6. A year removed from being a Triple Crown winner.
Yeah, it's not the order of them. It's just this: is that we definitely don't have anybody that should be ahead of any of these guys.
No,
Michael Thomas, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not there.
Other than that, I'm not ready to fight. We don't have a top 32 receiver, and if we do, he's got to become that this year. Yeah,
right.
Not yet.
Not yet. Sure.
All right, what's next?
Is
that it?
I believe we are.
Yep.
All right, so now we're to some news, and that means it's time to go around the NFL. Tony, you added this one. Is that Zach Wilson?
Yeah, this is Zach Wilson. Is off season. This is how it's
hey, dude, when you're a millionaire, even though
you're a millionaire backup,
that's
is not going to see the field for 2 years, you get to enjoy your days off. The first thing I thought about with this was, man, her mom must be hot.
Yeah, he's just using her to get to the moms, right?
Okay.
That's the big time play. How about the Raiders, man? They're in a pretty shit position.
Yes.
Jimmy Garoppolo failed his physical. So now it's looking like he won't be the quarterback for them this year. Now the Raiders are left scrambling at a time when everybody, has locked up their quarterback position and the moves that they intend to make. And
Matt Corral trade. Boom.
Is there, let me ask
Third
you this,
rounder,
so
dude.
This situation is basically this. He didn't pass his physical when he signed his contract, which is why they ended up having postponing him signing and having because they had to rework the contract to be able to have an out so that they're not being held accountable to that. Now he failed a second physical.
As far as I
know, first I'm hearing of this, so you guys put this in.
So basically, the way that I'm to understand it is he failed his first physical, so they made that one of the things that they're like, oh, it's no big deal. He'll be doing his press conference soon, but he never basically they found recently that it's because he failed his physical and they had to rework the contract to be able to have an out if he failed his physical again before I guess training camp. And I think that's what's got Devontae Adams so pissed off about what the the front office is doing, because they got rid of Derek Carr with no contingency whatsoever.
Yeah. Now
and didn't even save money, honestly. You know what I mean? Like
Carson Wentz is like the one of the bigger name free agents. Dude, I haven't seen
go get the
Cam's
one
name
mercenary.
anywhere.
There's a mercenary out there. It's Cam Newton.
The only name I've heard connected to Cam Newton is Antonio Brown, trying to get him to go play for his Arena League football team.
Oh, no way.
Oh, you did not hear this?
No,
oh,
I did not
Tony,
hear this.
yeah, dude, Antonio Brown.
I hate Antonio Brown.
I
man.
know he's been going through fucking all this shit that you put on himself, not paying his team, not paying his coaches. Now he's saying that he might play for the team this year.
That's
And
awesome.
That'd
be great.
Dude, he wants.
He's actually
Cam
pretty
Newton.
good at making a fucking circus.
Yeah, and dude, he
spectacle.
wants Cam Newton to come and throw him the football. He's like, I would never.
It's not
got
a
chance to
terrible
do it in the
idea, to be
league.
honest. Like, it's
Yes,
like,
it
hey,
is. I don't want to
it's,
see Cam playing
hey
arena
man, if we're making
football,
YouTube
dude.
videos, blah, 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 it's like, oh, we could have a podcast where we just join the ranks of other football players talking about the world, or we could do something fucking wild and have people come in. You know, I mean, imagine what that would slightly do to the value of that organization on the short term. It would probably be more money than they would make like investing in the stock market. Well, definitely right now. How about this? Is back to the Jimmy Garoppolo. Can we really be thankful? And here, I went crazy nuts optimism. And I was like, Greg must not heard me right earlier when he was like, now you're the wet blanket. I was like, no, I'm talking about I have expectations of Bryce Young being the best quarterback ever right now because we picked him number one. He's our guy. And like, if he can't be the best quarterback ever, he shouldn't have been picked number one. But boy, oh boy. You know, the Panthers made a big decisive move in going up and getting a quarterback. I mean, going up in the draft. There were people out there telling us Jimmy Garoppolo could be a fucking bridge for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was
a
when you
real
think about this,
conversation.
think about how nauseating this guy fucking moment in this podcast would be. We would, you know what we'd be saying? Go get Cam. And Antonio Brown. Fuck it.
Jimmy Garoppolo turned the Panthers into a bunch of Jimmy Garoppolos.
Oh, dude, that would exactly what we'd be saying. If the Panthers would have done this and this came out, I would be on this podcast saying, fuck, man, I would be on this podcast saying, go get Cam Newton and Antonio Brown. We don't have a great wide receiver core anyway. Let's do it.
Dude, I just don't want to. As long as Cam doesn't end up playing Arena League football, I'm happy with it. Justin Jefferson could become the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, in the NFL in history, on per his next deal. Whenever he gets paid again, it deserves
not
it,
surprising.
man. The dude's a beast.
Stephon Diggs got paid by Minnesota and by Buffalo.
Yeah.
And this guy's really good, dude. And he seems not only is he really good, he seems intent to be what kind of Devontae Adams is right now, and that is somebody who believes they're the number one in the game.
Yeah,
like I feel like you
second round pick.
Was Devontae Adams too?
No, he might have been a late first.
But the point is, like, I see not only a supreme talent here, but a guy that seems like he's interested in surpassing every single season that he had the year before. And that's pretty wild when you can just see that in their play when you don't even fucking follow the team. All right. Next
up. Oh, I found this on Reddit, dude. So they're saying this is Dave Newton's cousin that works for Chicago. He's typing out this list right now. I see 4 wide receivers as roster locks for the Bears: DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, Tyler Scott. I believe he meant to say Dante Pettis, but he says I prioritize safety value with those last 1 and 2 spots. That helps Velus Jones and Dainty Penis. But ESB's blocking could knock them Pettis out of the 53. Dude, what would be more insulting than having somebody call you dainty penis? That's
Can I talk about the fact that his phone, instead of like saying with Dante, auto corrected to dainty penis?
Yeah,
So
dainty penis.
He's been searching dainty penis
Dude's been on his phone searching dainty penis, dude.
That is hilarious.
I tell you this is what'd you say? Your question was what could be a worse thing to be called than dainty penis? I tell you, what could be a better thing to be called than fucking God, I just ruined the joke. Homeboy, who's my guy? Who's my guy that you just called him his brother? Just
Dave
David Newton. I was like, what could be a better honor than being called Dave Newton's brother?
Yeah, right.
Like,
yeah, that's an honor right
highest
there.
honor to me.
Yeah, that's an honor right there. Hey man, that's it for the C3 Panthers podcast.
I don't know how we stretched that. Felt like this is that we were like, man, it was like every time we walked further down into the show, it just got longer.
What do you say we hit the longest running segment on the C3 Panther podcast? How about this? The longest running segment, what in the history of all Panther podcasting?
Yeah, longest running segment on the longest running Panther podcast. That means it's the longest running segment in all of Panther history.
Time to ice up.
Ice up, son. Ice up.
It's our homage to Steve Smith when we tell someone to ice up, toughen up, get it together. Everybody's fair game. Hey, look, we even brought up Ken Lucas's name, and he had to literally ice up after Steve Smith punched him in the face. This is our opportunity to punch the world in the face and tell someone to ice up, toughen up, get it together. Who's ready to rock and roll?
Dude, I have like 5 of them.
Okay, good. Me
you
too.
Want me to go last?
No, let's go this. Let's do a ping pong. All right. And CK,
Okay.
you just put your hand up when you're ready to go in there. I'm going to do this one first right here. And I love this closed circuit TV shit that's on Twitter.
Dude, I know.
I don't know if this is real. But this cart hits a speed bump.
Oh.
And at first I thought that was his body that flew up. I think it might be a shoe.
Yeah, I think it was like a hat or
but his face.
Dude, that's still enough to bust your fucking head open.
Dead.
Dude.
That's dead. That's some dead shit. That his whole he got road rash on his entire body. That's my first one. You go next.
Dude. So first up on the docket, mine's very political, but I do believe everybody's gonna have a laugh. First up, I am icing up the Speaker of the Texas House of Representatives, Dade Phelan, because my man was either drunk off his ass or having a stroke. Dude, did you not
Mr. Campbell sent an amendment. The amendment is acceptable to the author. Is there objection to the opposite amendment? The chair has none. The amendment is adopted.
Dude, I heard a councilman somewhere. It was like a town, whatever, and he was a young guy. Got caught passed out with a crack pipe in his hand, and they were like, "Do you have drugs on you?" You're like, "No."
Yeah,
and
that was my ice up last week.
Oh, all right. So that guy, that's like, did he smoke crack? Is he having a stroke or is he drunk? Let's get it one more time.
Yeah,
this is
listen
awesome.
to this dude. Let's hear it one more time. Listen.
Mr. Campbell sent an amendment. The amendment is acceptable to the author. Is there objection to the opposite amendment? The chair has none.
He's having a stroke.
Look at how big the gavel is.
Yeah, I know, right?
The gavel looks like it. Greg's like, I wish I could 3D print that.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, that's comical. All right, we're playing ping pong. Go ahead, Tony.
All right. Here's my next one. Is if this is the case and this is true, I don't know who to ice up. Says Taylor Swift fans are selling rain for her from her concert in Boston for $250. So, like, I don't know who to ice up. I guess you ice up the dummy that pays for water that anybody could have just poured in a bucket, whatever, and put a lid on it. I don't think you can knock the people that are selling it. It's like this. It's like I didn't get angry at the girl who sold her farts. I think I iced up the people that bought her farts. I would say this is worse than buying a fart.
Yeah,
What's worse?
I mean, hey,
What's
don't
worse?
hate,
I
no,
don't know.
don't hate the player, hate the game. I mean,
Yeah.
shit, if you can make a bunch of money off of a bunch of idiots for doing nothing wrong in the process, shit, go
Yeah.
ahead. Tony, me and you are kind of on the same wavelength tonight because mine is of a very similar vein. The caption for this video is I have never in my life seen a robbery this cold, and recorded him for good measure too. So this guy is buying the new Nintendo Switch with the CK. What's the new Zelda game called?
Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom. So Tears of the Kingdom just came out. He wants to trade all this stuff for Tears of the Kingdom.
Hey guys, check it. This is Quincy. He did a trade with us today. He traded in
Now, keep a good look at the nature of the things that this man is selling.
all
Japanese Nintendo 64,
of this.
an original in the box, in the plastic Super Nintendo.
And he traded up for the new Zelda Switch. We gave him a $700 payout. Are you happy, Quincy?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Hey guys.
Like $9,000.
Yes, I am. Well,
Dude.
So if you do just a little bit of diving, that Nintendo 64, yeah, no big deal. Just almost $1,000 in price. An authentic Japanese Pikachu Nintendo 64. But hold on, it gets even worse. That in the box Super Nintendo was $6,000.
Who the fuck would pay $6,000 for them?
Dude,
box?
that has
That's
111 watches on that.
That's crazy. What kind of dummies? I got a Super Nintendo in my attic right now.
But dude,
But it's not in a box.
The fact that the woman at the GameStop knew what she was doing,
just
and
raping him.
yeah, and recorded him being like, "Yep, I'm happy."
I've got a mental disability, and you just took advantage of it,
dude. Maybe do it.
is that actually the ice up pick might need to be that person?
No, it's the person that made the deal. Dude, do a Google search or something, bro.
No, but at some point you gotta do you take advantage of an old lady who's selling her house and you're like, oh, I'll give you $5, and she's like, okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why it's so cold that she put him on camera.
I know she
knew that she was getting over on him, and she made it a point to put out a video that was like, "Hey, aren't you happy with your new deal?"
This is a
And
good
he was
bounce
like,
off of this because
Yep.
ice up. Here's a good bounce off of that. This is more social media or like kind of things about making money, internet technology. My ice up pick goes to. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Bigger. It's at Marketing Bully. God, why can I not make it? She got upset with Mr. Beast. All right. And she says this. She tweeted under a Mr. Beast TikTok, which she shared, by the way. She had this whole thread right here. But she says, you don't have to agree with me. I don't care. I still think this is predatory as fuck and very dangerous. On other game shows, you can decide on your own meals, leave and come back, go to sleep in a bed, go bath, even though it meant bathe, and use a private restroom anytime you want. That's why this is weird as fuck. So she said that Mr. Beast is predatory. She went on all of this shit about how they have to eat what he chooses. Only when he chooses can the people help bring him. Hosts of the game are throwing snacks and food by the circle's edges to make people reach over the line because they're hungry and they're laughing about it. This ain't messed up to y'all, she says. It's some rich guy playing cruel games with working class people. He has no freaking idea what life is like for people living paycheck to paycheck, barely getting by. This ain't cool. It's just a sick game to him. He's enjoying this so much. So I was like, God damn, like Mr. Beast lives in my town. He's from Greenville, North Carolina. He lives here. I was like, oh God, what the fuck? Is she like unraveled some like sweatshop of kids pressing thumbs up and subscribe or something that he had been doing? I end up watching this whole damn TikTok video, and I don't watch a lot of stuff like this. But he ends up, and I'm not gonna play it, but he ends up drawing a circle here. Just to give you some things. It's like a circle on this thing. It's giant. They got porta potties.
And they're not allowed to leave it.
Yeah, and if you get to bring people brought tents in. You know what I'm saying? Like the first person stepped across on day one. Like they weren't even there an hour, and the kid was just like, you know what? I'm not gonna win this. He said, I'm fucking out of here. They gave him a car. Those predatory fucks gave the first loser a car. The next part of this, she said they make him eat, win, and what? Their first meal was takeout filet mignon. Like it was like what I was like, what the fuck? So anyway,
so predatory.
You know what is? I think she's a plant. Maybe. I think she might be a Mr. Beast plant who got me to watch his entire video, a video I would have never watched, and then argue with this made-up person called the marketing bully on the internet. Ice up to this fake plant. Burner account. That's a burner account by Mr. Beast, I bet. Ice up to what? Oh, taking care of the working class by sitting there not doing shit and fucking getting a car.
I know.
My bad.
I know every time Mr. Beast puts out a new video, if you on Twitter, whenever he's trending, there's always a bunch of people that are like shitting on him.
They hate the player.
Saying that he's predatory and all this shit.
He's not predatory. He made his entire fortune
no
with
doubt.
a brilliant
Dude,
model, which
most of
is
his
just
videos,
give away money, and people love watching people
and
be
healing
so
sick
fucking
people.
happy.
Like most of his videos have been, curing the sight of 1,000 blind people who couldn't afford the surgery.
And we all click on it and and it's all tax write-offs, and it's all fucking brilliant. It's a brilliant business model.
Yep.
It's a brilliant business model. He took $10,000 and he said, and you can hear him talk about it one of his first videos. He just said, if we give away half, it doesn't sound as cool. If we give away $2,500 as a tip, he said, $10,000 sounds crazy. And they're like, oh, but you're not going to make $1 off this video. He said, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to make I'm going to give $10,000 to make $20,000. This guy makes like this right here. It's brilliant. And man, I'm going to click like on somebody getting a car before I'm going to click like on that stupid ass kid that fucking ate a sandwich in front of a homeless person.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah,
all right, you go next. CK,
people
if you got something, jump in there. I got
CK,
two
you
left.
want to go? I got 3 more, and they're all centered around what might be my favorite president in American history.
You go ahead.
All right. Tony, do you have any more? You want me to?
Yeah. All right. So my next ISEP pick, I don't really care about a lot of these people. And I was political. I just don't even got time for it anymore to be upset. My next ISEP pick goes to to AOC. Who put out she put out a tweet that said like there's this fake account that is out there ruining my life. Wish I could find. I thought I had her tweet bookmarked. Anyway, she ends up being upset because this parody account that fucking just every time she tweets, she does like it's basically like interpret Robbie Anderson tweet.
Yeah,
but it's like interpret it from a person that hates you.
I love
so. It's like every time she does something, they're like, "Oh, spends a good $1 trillion on this." It's like all of this stuff, and she went bitching on the internet about it, recognizing the person. This Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez press release, parentheses parody at AOC Press, which also has a blue check. And this is why she's fucking railing. After she made this tweet, the parody account like got 114,000 subscribers. So like she brought so much attention to this, and she's mad at Elon Musk because he commented or did something and engaged with it, in her opinion. But then I went and looked at the parody tweet account, and it had shit like this up here from my Southern Border photo shoot earlier, saying the quiet, but like being upset with this parody account. And that's the wall. Like I was dead. Like, I laughed. I laughed more at the account than felt anywhere bad with her. And then I went to her
real picture of her like fake crying at the
I
border
think
wall.
I think it's her. I seen
Oh
it.
God, what a performance!
Right. She remember when she got fake arrested with no handcuffs on,
everything
and she
about
walked with
her
her
is a
hands behind, and she
performance.
didn't have handcuffs on, and you're like, you were ready for her to raise her fist and say "fight the power" or some shit.
Dude, I used to like her so much. Now she's like,
I don't even care. I went and looked at her page to see if they were just taking advantage of this moment. And then she was like, hey, here's my press report to my constituents. And I watched, it was like 22 things we did in 2022. It was like a real millennial type fucking video to her constituency. And like all the top shit was just like, we spent $1 bazillion. We fucking made it. Like, it was just like, holy shit, man, you're awesome, because you just assumed $12 billion in debt for underdeveloped countries. Awesome. Every check. Anyway, I don't care, but this fucking parody account is winning when she was upset that and she brought the attention. So be careful what you wish for. And then I guess that just finished, because I think the last two go to this is be careful what you wish for, folks, on the internet. Don't poke the wrong bears. Right now, some people are upset. Oh, the other thing I'm upset with politics, or actually this is always politics, it's not new. And that is, it doesn't matter what the truth is or who is right. Well, like, you're just going to pick on everybody's fault to the end. So, like, if you didn't like Obama, you're going to find every fault. If you didn't like Trump, you're going to find every single fault. People right now don't like Elon Musk. Elon Musk tweeted this this meme, which says, Voltaire quote, to learn who rules over you, simply find out who you are not allowed to criticize. And then people on the wild left, Ben Collins guy goes, this quote that Elon Musk retweeted is not actually from Voltaire. It's from a neo-Nazi and white supremacist, Kevin Strom. So weird how he stumbles across these white supremacist memes. I'm sure it's fine. So then it comes in this is like, first of all, when you really dive into all the comments, the Kevin Strom guy isn't the guy that said the quote either. It says, this guy says that's false. Voltaire did not say the quote, but it's also not for Strom. Strom just claimed to have said something similar, not even the same quote, and left-wing face checkers bizarrely took him at his word. The actual author is unknown. So this guy is criticizing Elon Musk for misappropriating a quote, and he then misappropriated a quote. And then it turns out that Elon Musk was just fucking with everybody because at the bottom of the tweet, it says, we need to rise up against children with leukemia. So like, it's like, not only did these guys set this off as trying to be this big giant fucking thing, but they were all getting fucking played.
Yeah,
that's my ice.
Elon Musk is the greatest troll on the planet.
He's really good at it. He's like the autistic troll.
Yeah.
So first up,
On
this
the
first
spectrum,
one
for sure.
Dude, listen, do you know how, like, okay, with Donald Trump, everybody hated him, but then some of the shit that he said on Twitter was so fucking
That's wonderful.
off the wall and hilarious that you kind of end up missing him. Okay, well, I don't like Joe Biden, but now I kind of love
like
him. I kind of, and it's not even, it has literally zero to do with politics and everything to do with him being maybe the funniest accidentally hilarious American president
comedy award
that we've ever had, dude.
He's the funniest unintentional.
So, by the way, let's get patriotic for a minute. Let's get patriotic for
Memorial Day.
Right, that's right. You know, we're coming off Memorial Day, and Joe Biden believes that you can define America in a single word.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to excuse me.
Booty juice. Remember when he got last week? He was booty. He said
booty juice.
What the heck was that? He had the stroke.
Dude.
He just stroked out too.
Oh man!
You know what? You're living in a. You know what?
I fucking love this dude.
One more time, just for us, just because.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to excuse me.
I think this is an old clip, actually. I think this might be an old clip because I've laughed at this before, and then look at Kamala in the background going, huh? One more
America
time.
is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to excuse me.
So he did. Look, you're living in the same moment that I used to. I didn't realize, like George Bush. I was in college when YouTube came out. When YouTube came out, right? Like, and it was like we were just starting to watch YouTube videos. Now it's such an important part of everybody's life. But there was a point where like YouTube videos weren't an important part of your life. And I was in graduate school. I was always busy as fuck, stressed out. And like when I would just watch George Bush blunders just to like brighten
and
my
it's
day.
almost endearing just to watch the old.
Just love them. Oh no, I grew. Actually, at first, is to become somebody who felt like he was doing wrong things. To now, I'm like, man, I want to hang out with that dude.
So okay, we're gonna go from funny to sad, and then the
Oh,
third
that
one
was
is just kind of.
I thought we were just at sad.
No, that was hilarious. This next one is actually sad. So if you remember, his son, Joe Biden's son, died of brain cancer.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, apparently while visiting a military base in Japan, remembers a different story.
Major, U.S. Army, lost him in Iraq. This service medal, Bronze Star, like you all about country. Thank you.
So basically, he said that he lost his son in Iraq, and that didn't happen at all whatsoever. He's talking about his son's boat.
We gotta fact check this one. Was he really talking about his son?
Yeah, that's what he was saying.
And if this is the case, we need the date on this too, because if he made that quote before he was elected, why? You know, I mean, we've got some real.
Didn't he lie about serving in the military or what he did in the military or something like that too?
I don't know if he had stolen valor or not.
Well, he said that he made 2 incorrect claims twice last year. But also,
one was that the name of America, the one word that America stood for was. I was wrong on that. It was actually
the next one is kind of creepy. I want you to look at Joe Biden's forehead, right? Pretty smooth. Okay. What are you talking about his forehead for? Huh?
Oh, you think he's a Manchurian candidate?
Dude, the rabbit hole goes deep. All right.
This is AI.
No, dude, people have been putting out videos and they are convinced that many of these Joe Biden people that we're seeing are not in fact Joe Biden, but they are people wearing a very highly like a cosmetic mask.
You're not gonna believe the movie I'm watching right now,
dude. Hold on, look at this.
This is normal. Look at his forehead.
This is fake.
That's a mask. That's a skin mask. Look at it.
They write about that, but it's not. That's
you can't
AI.
tell me this is normal. Look at his forehead.
You know what I'm watching? I like to go back and watch old 90s movies. that I've been watching on and off for today. Conspiracy theory with Mel Gibson, and he would be like, "Oh shit, it's not our president." Do you think that's AI, or do you think it's a fake person?
No, dude, I've seen a bunch of videos of his flesh like folding in on itself, and his ears are.
So which one is the real one, smooth or wrinkle?
I don't know, but you can pull up like 5 different pictures of Joe Biden looking completely different. People have also look, check this out. All right, so look, dude, look at the bottom of his ears. Okay, look at the bottom of his ears. You see how one is rounded, and then this one over here is like a straight
if it was
line.
a mask, they would have made it similar.
But dude, there's a bunch of photos of his ears.
That's AI shit.
Being
That is
shaped
AI
completely
shit.
different.
That's
bro.
fake. Yeah, that shit's fake. It looks like. Do you remember?
Dude, maybe our president's a fake. Dude, holy shit!
You're like too young for this. Maybe. Have you ever seen Total Recall?
Yeah.
And it's like when he's the woman, and it's like, and she starts having the meltdown, and the face.
Yeah, her face. That's how Joe Biden looked. Yeah.
All right. CK, you got anything?
No, let's go.
You're gonna ice up the show.
I said no. I'm icing up that it's 12:40.
You know, he thought it was longer when he did his subscriber shame. He said we've been on for 2 hours and 40 minutes. And we had only been on an hour and 40 minutes. I was like, oh, fuck. CK is ready to go already. The number is 252-228-5098. We're taking your calls all the way till tomorrow morning. No. CK is like, fuck you. I quit. Well, you can.
I'll be here, dude.
Because it's a voluntary thing. It's the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night and to Wednesday morning, we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. I've had a blast. Did not expect to have anything to talk about. And these are the shows that always go the longest. Follow me on Twitter at @cat_chronicles. Help us out on YouTube. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Going to continue to try to put out more and more content. We need your help with content creation. This is your website, CarolinaCatChronicles.com. You want to write for it? You want to build something? You want to make videos? We're like, man, let's make this community together. Hey, every single guy on this podcast has been a person that just wanted to build a community. And Cody Lashney, you've done a great job in being a big part of the C3 Panthers podcast. How can they find you?
Appreciate you, brother. They can find me on Twitter at Cody Lack, CODYLAC. Every Monday at 10:30, me, Desmond Johnson, and Monty Fetty do Embrace Debate, Carolina Panthers. Check that out on audio, and it'll stream on this channel. And every Friday at 7 p.m., the C3 Friday Free-For-All, the show for Panther fans, by Panther fans. If you would like to join the show and give your own opinion on everything going on in Panther Nation, that's the one to do it on. Friday Free-For-Alls.
Find him at the country club, but if he's not at the country club, how can they get after you?
You can find me in my bed in the next 2 minutes, and one word.
At CodeDizzle_Allen. Cody Lashney, take us out of here.
C3 Nation. Until next time, keep pounding.